You're not gonna wait for a mandate. No, I'm gonna wait.
Thank you, John. Do you have a pen? Oh, jeez. Don't worry about it.
Kelly inhaled the granola bar the wrong way.
So, sorry. There it goes.
Just give me the thumbs up.
So just. And then go share your safety. That, it was your whole desktop.
I'll start.
Okay. And we're good.
We're ready to go? Okay, so recommendation of council resolve itself into the committee of the whole at 2 minutes after 5. Moved by Councillor Evans, second by Councillor Wallace, all in favor. Carried, thank you. So we have a delegation here in regards to the Southwest Sicamous Bridge ISL engineering, Brandon Barker. Brandon, you got the floor.
All right, thank you.
Joe?
I'll just do a quick brief introduction to Mr. Parker. Brandon's been working with us now for the last 3 years, 2.5 years, 3 years now. The district Sicamous was successful in the replacement of the Southwest Sicamous Bridge. We received $4.5 million from the provincial government, to do a replacement on this bridge. We then used our reserves and a little bit of community works funds in order to do this bridge replacement. The stage that we're at just now is just as important as any other stage in a bridge project. But what we've got to today is our fish window closed yesterday for our in-stream works, and the foundation work has been completed today. And so it was a perfect time for Brandon to come and give us an update on where we are, where we've been, and where we're going in this bridge project. So I'm exceptionally pleased to bring Brandon in today. It's an exceptionally exciting project, and it's one that both Brandon and I are exceptionally proud of today. Brandon.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, council. Thank you, Arthur, for having me here today. I've been asked to give an update in terms of update on the bridge in terms of construction, progress to date, as well as construction for completion of the project. So I'm going to go through, like I mentioned, just briefly, progress to date in terms of construction, schedule, budget, key issues, and the same things we covered for moving forward. Moving forward will be from essentially from today until project completion. I'll close off with just a quick summary. So for construction, we've got some milestones. This is progress to date, and so some of the key things that we've completed. We acquired a traffic management plan and control plans for single lane alternating traffic on the bridge. We completed the temporary relocate of deep underground utilities for both water and sewer. That was completed to facilitate tile driving installations without affecting community water and sewer supply, and sewer collection. We've also done a lot of coordination between archaeology, heritage monitoring, and excavation activities that are on site. We've deployed stream silt curtain protection and erosion control measures. Those are all implemented through permit applications and approved through the province, both the Ministry of Environment as well as DFO. And like I mentioned, steel-driven piles, and Joe's already kind of commented on this. We had to have all of our in-stream piles installed within the permitted or approved fish window, which expired yesterday. Contractor has also been able to complete some of the concrete pier abutments on the west side of the bridge. He did those pretty early on in the project, so he could allow for traffic to be swapped from one side to the other, alternating traffic as he was building the project. There's also pier diaphragm installations. Those are underway right now. And they have had 3 sections that they've already installed with rebar, forming, and they're awaiting concrete. Just to continue on, in terms of the progress to date under the construction, some of the key issues that we've observed in terms of working with this contractor is it seemed to be somewhat slow progress starting up with the job from start. Mostly that's contract document related items that we were waiting for. So we had some concerns related to the traffic control signage that we had to address, some safety concerns, as well as some legal issues in terms of having signage placed within ministry transportation right away. Some other key issues that I'm talking about here, temporary underground relocations, they see us to facilitate power driving, inspection coordination with archaeology and environmental. We've had some struggles in terms of obtaining scheduling and coordination from the contractor. So we have deployed staff or resources to the project, unfortunately, without the contractor being ready for that. As such, you know, some similar items that we've had some issues with are installation of in-stream work activities. And some of those works had been initiated, started, not completed, but they were done without environmental monitoring. Driving has been one of the key issues probably for the last 3 months. They've got a total of 22 piles that are a part of the superstructure foundation. And because we have sort of a design where we're overlapping onto an existing bridge, there are some challenges with existing infrastructure that exists below the riverbed. And that bridge that exists there today, it probably has been replaced once or twice prior to the bridge that's there today. We can observe that from the number of existing wood piles that we've cut off at mud line or at water level, at low water. So a lot of that work had required some field relocations due to obstructions. And the contractor did his best to obviously deviate or manipulate his driving or pile driving equipment to minimize sort of those encountered obstructions. So as a result, there are some changes to the bridge design that we've had to complete on the fly as the piles have gone in. And those are really low-graded calculations that the structural engineers have completed. And nothing has really altered in terms of the criteria requirements. The contractor has been able to achieve all the criteria to meet. Last key issue that I've noted here is just completing the in-stream works within the approved fish window. And just moving on to schedule for progress to date. Just kind of listed out some milestone dates here that I think that are important for everyone to kind of observe. This kind of gives you a quick snapshot, basically from the start of the job and up until today. But notice of award recommendation was provided back in August 13, 2019. About 10 months after the recommendation of award, we went into negotiation for the next 9 months. And of those 9 months, it was really the last 2.5 months that were the focal point of those negotiations. We completed that negotiation on June 22nd last year, 2020. And following that contract negotiation, we then issued a notice to proceed back in August of 2020. I keep going back to this, but there have been some safety concerns at the existing bridge with excavation, specifically around the abutments for riprap installation. I won't get too involved in what that all entails, but essentially we had to retain a third-party geotechnical engineer to give us some of his comments, to do a review and an assessment of the current conditions that the contractor was working with. To date, that letter report has been completed, it has been provided to the contractor, he has complied with those requirements. Big one is yesterday's date is the driven steel foundation piles. Those were installed yesterday. They had one remaining pile that went in today, which had 2 more segments of steel pile that was welded on and extended into the subsurface. So that was an abutment pile, so it did not affect the in-stream work activities in terms of permit requirements. We were well on the water area, so that was not an issue in terms of complying with the regulatory bodies. As a part of this, this fish window is a pretty critical component for this bridge's success. And having the permit itself, there's two components. One is a permit, and the other one is a window, or a fish window, is what we refer it to. The permit is just a document that states what the province and what the province and DFO will allow for work to complete with in-stream work, meaning they define dates. We went to the ministry asking for a variance to those dates to allow us to construct in winter months between November and February, and it was approved. It did take some effort to get that approval, but once we got it, we were good. In doing so, getting close to this expiry date of this fish window, the 23rd, which was yesterday, we had discussed with the contractor through both communications, email and telephone, to identify whether or not he wanted an extension to this fish window to allow for him to extend a few weeks beyond the permitted window. That has a process all in itself to get that extension. The contractor was adamant that he did not need the extension, but he would have to return at a later date to complete the in-stream works for riprap. And in order for them to do that, they would have to go within an existing regulated fish window. And so what we did was we requested an extension to the permit for the in-stream work activity, which was approved, which means now we have the ability to do in-stream works on this project up until next year, February 23rd, 2022. The permit itself did extend beyond that duration in case we want to extend further. In terms of some key issues with the schedule, notice to proceed, not issued immediately following award recommendation, and that was primarily due to trying to get the approvals from the regulatory bodies, both Ministry of Mineral, which is Ministry of Environment, and DFO. That review process did throw a wrench into plans to have construction start right away. So it basically was a 1 full year delay of getting construction started. Another key issue that we had was going through the contractor negotiations and scope changes. So the contractor was really good working with us. It was a pleasant sort of experience, I think, for both, maybe all three parties, the contractor, the district, and ISL. They were capable of eliminating the temporary bathing bridge that was initially designed to allow for temporary traffic across the river and free up the entire work zone for the bridge to be replaced. As a result of those negotiations, we had some significant changes that the contractor wanted to work with us to identify loading requirements if he needed to remove specific girders on the existing bridge. And so those girders that were existing, the full intention was to put piles in between existing girders, but also have the ability to remove certain components that don't have lots of loading on them to facilitate both public transport across the bridge, but also the heavy equipment that will be used in the bridge to pile drive, to do demos, etc. As a part of that, due to the change in the location of the proposed bridge location, we had to also look at the temporary utilities as an option to mitigate any potential for damage to both water and sewer lines that are in the river. The water and sewer lines are somewhere between greater than 4 meters below the river bottom or river bed. So our piles actually will be extending, or at the time they're proposed to extend much further below that. So there was potential for that damage to occur. So that's part of the negotiation, was to come up with a cost from the contractor to do temporary utility work. Just some more key issues, and I think I've kind of touched on most of these. Pile driving, slow initial progress. We saw some slow progress in terms of pile installations for the first couple of months, and ever since December, things have turned completely the other direction, and they've been very expeditious in getting a majority of those piles completed. I would say that they've probably probably got about 15 or 14 piles in the last 2 months in. The subsurface soils encountered were modestly different and materially, and in comparison to what the design investigations told us. So things like obstructions, as mentioned before, whether that be existing wood piles, we've encountered concrete there, we encountered rocks. Those all required modifications to the design as we went through. As another requirement, because of the alterations or changes to design loading of piles, we also had to incur additional costs of PDA testing. And PDA testing is pile driving analyzer. It's a geotechnical term that tells us what sort of loads are imposed on those steel piles. And our structural has sort of a guide for both the contractor and the geotech for them to achieve. As the project evolved, there were some other challenges for the contractor, such as trying to use the existing pile driving equipment he has on site to reach out to very far-reaching piles, the ones that are very far east. If I were to give you a number, it would be probably about 5 meters, 6 meters from the edge of existing bridges, how far he has to extend his equipment out to get a pile in. There were 2 key piles that were like that. They were both in-stream piers, which means they're right in the middle of the river. So he had to build a temporary rock berm to access those points. The contractor also had limitations with capacity for his driving, pile driving equipment as well as his crane. So that did limit sort of the pile lengths that were being installed. And so instead of a 12-meter length of steel pile going in, he had to use a 6 meter, so half the length, which meant double the amount of welding, which meant 4 hours more per weld. So that's where the slow progress sort of generated from, is because of limitations. Based on all the modifications and changes, a lot of these quantities in terms of pile lengths have been altered. For the most part, there is a big increase in pile lengths, and we can quantify that and identify what those costs are, and we'll see that in a bit here. So as a part of this, we were trying to find also some cost savings as a part of some of these changes that we were implementing. And as a part of that, we implemented design load reductions. And then by doing that, it was somewhat another negotiation with the contractor in terms of trying to facilitate what he's completed with what is required for achieving the required loading criteria. In doing so, we reduced the asphalt thickness by 1 inch just on the bridge deck to allow those dead loads to be eliminated. The other key issue is the approved fish window change approval extension. So there was no extension of the fish window requested by the contractor, as I mentioned, and we were successful in getting an extension to the permit. And again, it's not an extension to the fish window; it's just a permit to extend it. So permit extension allows for in-stream activities to resume, regulated fish window or approved fish window. There's 2 that are within our permit, and that will be 1 in July and August, which is about 3 weeks. And then we have the same window that we had this year from November 23rd to February 23rd. So as a part of that, in terms of the in-stream work, the contractor will need to redeploy environmental protective measures before proceeding later next year to do the remaining riprap works. In terms of construction budget, I'll give you guys just a little bit of a summary here, just to give you an update in terms of where we are with construction, and this is progress to date. So the summary is at tender close, we were at $4.458 million of tender close at. We negotiated that with the contractor, the elimination of the Bailey Bridge, but then there was the inclusion of temporary utilities and some other items through that work, through that negotiation. The total savings that we were able to generate for that was $64,000. That seems like a drop in the bucket, but it is a very challenging site with a lot of different movements, a lot of different parts as a part of this project, not only for the design, but the number of different entities that are a part of this project. And you'll see that in some later slides that you'll see what our project team sort of looks like. So construction to date, this is up to February 1st in terms of construction. That's when we get our last progress off from the contractor. It's telling us that we're about 38% complete, and we have an estimate of about $2.9 million remaining in construction. Now that the piles have been completed, that number is probably closer to 50% now, just to give you kind of an idea. Some key issues in terms of the budget, obviously through negotiations, there were budget availability constraints, but through that negotiation, we were able to eliminate the Bailey Bridge and some temporary road works as well. As part of the negotiation, we also negotiated transfer of environmental monitoring. So the contractor did not really want to do monitoring environmentally and asked if ISL could retain that service. So by doing that, that saved the district about $32,000 with that transfer of ISL taking on that role. We also looked at reductions to retaining wall requirements as well. So those are part of those negotiations, moving the bridge, realigning it. That also saved money in terms of the extent of retaining wall required, as well as all optional items were eliminated during that negotiation as well. And like I mentioned, we had the addition through negotiations of the deep underground utility relocates. And we made that agreement in a manner that allows the contractor to do two things. One, he does the relocation temporarily to allow for the piles to go in. And once the piles are installed, we would test those existing utilities that are subsurface under the river. If they pass, then we would reconnect. And if that occurs, there's going to be a savings to the district if we can just reconnect. All signs right now pointing toward there's no issue with these two utilities, but again, we have to go through the testing procedures to ensure that. Key issues in terms of construction up until today. So far, we've been still investigating some cost saving opportunities. Joe and I and Jeremy, we've been looking at this basically since the inception of the notice to proceed and drawing up some ideas in terms of where there are available savings. And where we are right now in those conversations is risk. And we want to ensure there is no risk to the district and make sure that the contractor is carrying all of that throughout this program. That is my objective. So in doing so, there are opportunities to remove some asphalt, remove some gravel work. But at this time, I'm still thinking that we want to maintain that due to warranty reasons and changes to the project as this continues to completion. Now we'll just move into progress to date for professional services. This would be anybody from our structural group, our civil group, environmental, hydrotechnical, geotechnical, and there's probably another one I'm not thinking of right now. But just to give you a summary, the original budget for engineering services was $541,000. We had implemented a scope change, which I already presented to council and mayor last year within, for a $580,000 change. So that pushed our budget up to $1,121,000. To date, to January 1st, our professional services have expanded or have used up that budget. We don't have anything available in that budget now, with the exception of $19. So just to kind of give you a summary of the breakdown, Joe asked me just to kind of share this with everyone here. This is what our budget looks like up until January 1st. You can see project management, we're at about $120,000, hydrotechnical, $61,000, structural, the big kicker, about $540,000, civil engineering, $170,000, environmental, $58,000, archaeology, $75,000, geotechnical, $130,000, electrical 12,000, and then some legal and surveying for $7,200. And the pie chart just represents sort of the percentages of how that breakdown looks. So in terms of progress to date for total expenditures, this would include both construction and professional services. So summary to date, construction up to February 1st, got 1.662 million. Professional services to January 1st, 1.12 million. So that puts us right now at a total spent to date at 2.72 million. Moving forward now, in terms of construction schedule, these are estimates, and most of the comments coming in the next few slides are all estimates. The estimate for concrete pier diagram, we're looking at early March for those to be installed and completed. Concrete pile caps, or what other references are pier caps, that's late March of this year. Precast girders for the east side of the bridge will be late March of 2021. Rebar and concrete decking will follow that in mid-April, and then late April is when they anticipate for the demolition of the existing bridge. So during that demolition, that's when they will be swapping traffic to the new east side of the bridge. That will be the first lane that gets completed. In terms of the west side now, these are basically all the same as what I just mentioned earlier, but these are all for the west side. So concrete pile caps or pier caps, those are mid-May 2021. Precast girders on the west, mid-May. And rebar concrete decking on the west side is end of May. Roadworks and paving is estimated to be at the end of May. And our substantial performance within our contract document is May 31st, 2021. So now, just going into the change approval extension that I mentioned earlier, that's the permit. That has been extended for another year, basically until 2022 in May. And this will allow the contractor to come back to complete the remaining riprap armoring in the channel on both the north and south side of the channel. What you see out there today is all temporary. All of that will be removed in November, and it will be excavated another 2.5 meters deeper than what it is out there currently. And gravel bedding will come in for support with geogrid over or filter fabric over top, and then that riprap will be replaced. And the replacement of that riprap will be range between 1.5 meters in thickness up to 2.8 or 3 meters. So very, very thick layers of riprap. Some key issues in terms of construction schedule. So sometimes these are key issues, and sometimes they're good things. But you know, the majority of the shop drawings that we've obtained from the contractor that he's currently erected, I would say that the majority of those have been completed in terms of the review and an approval. So the pier diagram, rebar, and concrete, that's ongoing right now. But this may result in the work being performed, you know, during the beginning of freshet. So we will start to experience in the next 3 weeks or a bit earlier, depends on Mother Nature, but our river level and lake levels will start to increase here fairly soon. Another key issue in terms of moving forward is we still need to complete water and sewer testing. So that's really going to entail a CCTV inspection, followed thereby pressure tests or hydrostatic testing. Both mains, so we're going to test both the sewer and the water for hydrostatic. Once those are passed, we will go through the whole full-blown testing requirements for the water line. So that's going to be your superchlorination, your bacteria sampling, and witness. Another key issue is the precast girders that are on site. They're already ready for placement. So it's really up to the contractor in terms of his scheduling, his time. You know, we as engineers or owners, we rely on the expertise of those contractors. That's where they tell us when they can do certain work. So that item there is not really well known as to when that'll be happening, but they are on site. So as soon as he has pier taps completed, he can install those. It's a short installation, maybe 4 or 5 days. There's a lot of remaining inspection coordination that remains, and that's going to basically be for rebar inspections, concrete pours, subgrade prep, utility tie-ins, retaining walls, riprap, like I mentioned earlier. And then again, a key issue there for us is demolition of that existing bridge structure now. We want to ensure that when it does that work, it's not putting risk to anybody, and it's a safe corridor for people to pass. You know, we've been waiting for some time now for updates from the contractor. He has been a little bit reluctant to provide those updates, but I think he's in a position now that the piles were out of his control because he had a pile driving contractor that he had to rely on to do the work in a certain time frame. So it made it hard for him to schedule any remaining work following that work. Without a foundation, it's pretty hard to build a bridge. We're sort of anticipating that there is going to be a performance or completion on this project. I mentioned that earlier, that there's an extension for riprap to come back next year. As a part of that will be existing wood pile extraction as well. So those will occur likely in November, December of this year. Just moving forward now with the construction budget. So as previously mentioned, the original budget for construction was 4.394, and then we had some change orders of $43,000, which pushed the project up to $4.437 million. So in terms of the estimate to completion of this project for construction, you know, February 1st, 2021, we were at 1.66 million is what's been spent to date. Estimate to May 31st, which is our substantial performance date, is expected to be about 2.62 million. I've allowed a provision in here for pile extraction. So pile extraction was never a part of the original contract agreement. The original agreement had the piles being cut off at mudline. The regulators, Transport Canada, not EFO and not NOE, but Transport Canada put a provision in and made it required for us to extract all the existing piles. In talking with the contractor, he feels that he's pretty confident he can get all those piles out for about $33,000. And again, an estimate that I prepared here in terms of riprap, that's about $1,000 for riprap that still needs to be done. And so we're looking at an estimated total construction of this project of about $4.556 million. Now, I've already kind of talked a bit about it, but there is potential savings here. If we do not have to replace the water and sewer lines, there is a savings to the contract of $181,000 or $90,000 per utility. Some key issues in terms of construction moving forward. And this is to May 31st, which is our substantial performance date. It's only 3 months away, and it's 62% of our construction still remain. And this is a forecast of February 1st, so technically, after the piles have all been completed as of today, is probably closer to 50% remains. Some other key issues there, just transferring the traffic and pedestrians from one side of the bridge to the other, just ensuring that that's a safe process. Some of the key issues, temporary riprap protection until November. So that's already been implemented. Again, that was in-stream work activities that the contractor completed yesterday. Some other issues that we're going to have to ensure that we cover off or our coordination with the archaeology heritage inspections. And again, substantial performance may not be achieved by that May 31st date. The potential for completion penalty in the contract right now is $1,500 per day for not being in line with the total performance or substantial performance, I would say. We still need to do some coordination with the electrical service, lighting, as well, safety concerns for any excavations, not just the riprap. Moving forward up to December 2021, this is when we anticipate the contract will return for both the pile extractions and the riprap permanent placements. So again, there'll be some scheduling coordination with environmental monitoring, archaeology, so that the in-stream works can be completed during an approved or permitted push window. The old bridge demo, that's a key issue as well. It does make riprap installation very simplified for the contractor. He doesn't have an existing structure in his way when he comes back for November, December. So I think that is a topic of discussion with the contractor moving forward, knowing that this makes his job a lot easier. That can provide some incentives for him to work with us a bit further. Again, I'm a big safety guy, so I've got safety down on the page, I think, but more safety. Now we're looking at the professional services budget estimate moving forward. As I mentioned earlier, our revised budget for professional services at 1.12 million. My estimate that I have right now for the completion of the project, which I'm preparing a scope change number 2 right now for the district, for both Joe, Jeremy, and Ed to review. That's in progress. I'm anticipating that that's about $165,000 to complete the project, which puts our engineering total at $1.286 million. Moving forward, and again, this is the professional services budget, and this sort of gives you another illustration of where these dollars are being spent. And so you can see with the project management, that's going to be about a $22,000 increase. All our hydrotechnical work is done, so there is no extra cost there for anybody. Structural, we still have significant amounts of structural components that need to be signed off and completed, and that's about $41,000. In terms of the roadworks and the retaining wall, the civil component of that is about $17,000 increase. Environmental is about an $11,000 increase. Archaeology is estimated to be about $61,000 increase. Geotechnical is about $4,000 increase. And the electrical is showing up here as an increase, but technically they are not over budget. And again, legal survey, we don't have any other requirements. So that puts our total at 1.286. Moving forward in terms of key issues with professional services, up to May 31st, which is our substantial performance date, there will be additional environmental monitoring for the temporary rock burns. There's additional archaeology requirements. Those are pending right now. I've been in consultation with our archaeology team for the last 2 weeks, trying to get budgets from them established for completion, as well as what they're willing to sign off and whether or not we need them to return to the project site. So as it is now, I'm trying to, I guess, convince, not the right word, but I'm leaning towards that we are not wanting, not needing potentially any further archaeology investigations. And so that's the discussion I'm having right now, just to eliminate that. They have seen a lot of the groundwork already, so they are feeling pretty confident that there's just chance find procedures to be implemented. Obviously, coordinate and review and revise loading criteria. This has been an ongoing challenge for us. Keep it up with the contractor. Again, safety concerns are an issue for us. And scope for archaeology. Other key issues, I guess, is there's still multiple or ongoing inspections that are required. We basically have a foundation for a bridge right now, and that's all we have. We haven't started doing a lot of the components for the structure, with the exception of a couple pile caps and some rebar that's been installed in piles that have been. So due to that, changes to the construction in terms of design, we've experienced multiple reviews of contractor submissions. This is from requests for information or clarifications, shop drawing reviews, as well as communications. Communications have increased significantly with this contractor, and it's been a challenge to stay in front of it. In terms of total estimated expenditure moving forward, so this is to completion, and this is the combination of both construction and professional services. So construction, like I mentioned, is estimated to be $4.556 million, and professional services at 1.36, for a total estimated project of 5.843 million. And due to the fact that there are potential for changes in the contract, we kind of looked at a sliding estimate, and And the upset cost really is the 5.84 at this time. But if there are potential for savings that we can find and offer, we're looking at about 5.66 million. Just in summary here, obviously completion of the new bridge, that's expected to be May 31st of this year. The staging of the removal of that existing wood bridge that's out there now is forecasted to take about 6 days to demo the entire bridge structure. And they're anticipating that for the week of April 9th. Project completion, substantial completion is forecasted to be May 31st, but likely total performance will not be achieved until the pile extraction of riprap arming has been completed in the fish window of November, December. In terms of budget, that's kind of what we just went through, the last slide there. Obviously, just to reiterate, it ranges. It's a range right now in terms of 5.66 million up to 5.84 million. That's all I have for you.
Thanks, Brandon. Joe?
Thank you, Brandon. I appreciate the presentation. We can do one of these every month. Maybe not in the best interest of everybody. This is a really detailed PowerPoint presentation and really brings us up to speed with the last year's worth of construction. Now we've just went through our significant financial meetings, and my kind of ask to Brandon was to bring forward a PowerPoint presentation that clearly shows that this project can be brought in within the 5.66 million. 5.669 million, sorry, which is exactly what we financed for, where we are in our budget, and it's exactly where I hope to be in June time. So for the district of Sicamous, I'm incredibly happy and impressed with where we are today with this project. It's a project that I desperately speak to all of our engineers and all of our staff on every single Tuesday morning at 11 o'clock and say the budget's 5.66 and it's to be done by June. If you need to come back and do extra work in the fish window next year or later on in the year, they can do that, but there'll be no more money to do it, unfortunately. They've got a budget, they know exactly what they need to do for that budget, and we can keep it within that budget. We're out there every single day making small changes and looking at how we can make sure we can save small amount of money. The sliding scale is based on, and I appreciate Brandon's honesty with exactly what is put up there on the screen. The 5.8 is if we haven't nicked and hit lines in the ground, which we don't anticipate we have. There are savings there, and the district secretary won't be arrested in the back here in order to do a financial amendment halfway through this year. So thanks very much, Brandon. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Brandon. Councilor Holmes, go ahead.
Great presentation. Just in one of your comments that you made, I just have a question. You talked about the piles and the difficulty, objects in the way, relocation, and then you mentioned pile capacity and then reducing the asphalt to get the low capacity. Is that one of the reasons we put that bridge in is because the semi can't go over it? So what is going to end up being the low capacity? Will a B train be able to drive across it?
You'll have no issues.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Then good job.
Everything is 2 times the design.
Okay.
Won't tell him that.
That's standard.
One second, Brandon, one more question.
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, thank you very much. That's a great presentation. Without doing the riprap, any concerns with the disturbance of the banks and everything with the El Nino snow year?
Yeah.
You guys are concerned about the riprap not being there?
No, the intent there is to facilitate at least a year's worth of protection. What we have out there right now is probably overkill, but we designed to the nth degree. There's a lot of risk for engineering firms such as geotechnical, as well as civil. But that component itself, yeah, it's going to be fine. It should hold up. There should be issues there. Again, if those issues do stem from the contractor's work, those are things that he will have to address at his work, not at the district.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Councilor
I promised myself I wouldn't ask any questions. But just one, on your precast girders, are you making sure you're doing your quality management and your quality control with the plant inspections?
Correct, yeah, so we did all those already. We did all of that, I want to say, in late September. And so we had our structural engineers go to the manufacturer's site while they were casting and while they were forming. So we got to observe everything, measure all components before the actual pour. So all precast girders were done that way.
Any other comments or questions? All right, here then, thanks Brandon for your report.
Thank you.
I go across that bridge about 4 or 5 times a day, so I've been watching every single step. And it's nice to see the progress and good work to Mr. McCullough as well, and monitoring every step of the way. So we're looking forward to seeing that thing getting completed, and you know, it's been a work in progress for quite some time. 8 to 9 years ago, we weren't sure how we were going to get that bridge replaced, but it's a 100-year-old bridge and it's getting there. So thank you for the report. Well done. Thank you.
Thanks for your presentation.
Really good. Thank you. All right, so we are going to go and follow this particular agenda. Amanda's got a couple more delegations that she's going to set up as we go through the rest of this agenda right now. So right now we're going to go into the financial report, staff report, December 2020 financial report. Kelly, can you give us a report on that, please?
Yes, most definitely. So I'll keep this relatively brief, considering we had a pretty long finance meeting today. So this is just summarizing actuals, not the budgets, for the year December 31, 2020. So a few things I just wanted to highlight is given COVID and then pandemic, at the end of the year, we actually had more cash on hand than we did last year. So last year, at the end of the year, we had 1.8 million. This year, we had 3.2 million. So at the end of the day, everybody ended up paying. And we're in a fine situation, and our property taxes receivable is actually down at the end of the year. So we've collected more. It's down from 720 last year to 520 this year. Just interesting. However, the business taxes overall are slightly lower because of the reduction in the school tax. So just those are some points. In infrastructure grants receivable, we have about 2 million receivable at the end of the year, mainly for the bridge, but also for the daycare, as well as wastewater treatment plant upgrades. So those are just some key balance sheet type things. Now, whipping along to the actual income statements. I know it's a lot of numbers. So overall, general fund operations, very happy with where we're at. Not a lot of significant variances when it comes to the revenues or the expenses for the year. Some things I'd like to highlight is recreation is down. That's with recreation and events specifically due to COVID and less stuff going on there. So I'd like to point out public health and welfare. Last year was 14. This year is 82, however, still consistent with budget. That's the daycare, the hockey facility, Main Street properties. We have more stuff who's in that. But overall, we transferred a good amount into our reserves. Everything is consistent with expectations. Very happy with general operations. Capital, we budgeted 10 million. We spent 4.5. Most of what we haven't spent relates to the bridge and a few other large key projects. I'm happy to go into detail, but it's in the report, so if you have any questions, you can ask. Water fund for the year, very happy to say that, and I'm very impressed that I budgeted only $984 difference on our water revenue this year, so kudos to me for a good budget there. And our water revenue is increasing, which I'm delighted about. Our expenses this year, fairly in line with budget. It's a little bit up, but other than that, looking pretty good. Our water treatment plant costs, so everybody knows, for 2020 was 275,000. In 2019, it was 307. So our actual cost to operate the water treatment plant went down a little bit. And this year, we're getting more efficient. We've got the materials on hand that we need, so less contract service work. So just so everybody's aware. That's it for the water fund. Capital, we've completed mainly these large projects and we completed them under budget this year, which is terrific. Then sewer operations, we budgeted more than what we actually received. 30,000 of that loss is due to the waiving of revenues and household companies. And the other is just changing over how we bill and consumption rates. And so I didn't budget our sewer revenues as good as the water, but next year it will be just as good. In terms of our operating expenses, everything's in line with budget, nothing really unusual there. And then our water, sewer capital, we are in the process of still finishing up the wastewater treatment plant upgrades, but all that is budgeted to be done in 2021. Overall, our operations budget, I'm very happy with. Our capital, we've nothing is really over budget and we're on track. So I'm very happy to report on her.
Thanks. Any other comments or questions from Kelly? Very good. So, Kelly has done a lot of work with her team on this, and we deliberated, thanks to Councilor Anderson, who chaired the finance committee as well, and a lot of hard work on this, and I have to say kudos to you, and you got the applause, so I'm glad you got that, so thank you, Kelly. Good work. All right, and moving on to strategic priorities and portfolio updates. So any questions and updates that we would have for staff on the actual strategic priorities? One thing, okay, Councilor Anderson, go ahead.
Actually, thank you. There's a couple things, we need to, Jeff is now, primary on the rail trail. So that should be changed on there, and as well as discussed today in our finance committee meetings, we should be adding a boundary extension strategic priority and attach it to a portfolio, because it's been requested from, it's been a request of the district to look into that.
Thank you for that. So in talking with Jen earlier today, this is what she recommended to me, is that we give staff the opportunity to realign the entire strategic portfolios, to add this to the portfolio list at that particular time and bring it back to council.
Sure, just make changes to it and then, yeah, okay, for sure, that's all I was asking.
Does council want to discuss now about who would take on the boundary expansion, or does council want an opportunity to think about that as part of the portfolio?
We should probably give it some thought.
Okay. No,
We should table that and think about it.
nobody's hand like just got up there. I received the list of priorities.
Maybe it can be mixed with
My
some.
list is getting smaller, so.
So we'll leave it in the hands of staff for now, and then bring it back to the next council meeting. Thank you. Thanks for that, Colleen.
Okay,
All
hello.
right, go ahead, Jim.
Number 9. Zoning bylaws rewrites. Where are we? Like, when are we gonna see something? Please, somebody.
It's in progress and there will be something in March. That was communicated by Sarah at the last council meeting.
Beginning of March, she said, yeah,
It's in March. It is in progress. It is being worked on. It's being cleaned up and made consistent. So we actually have something that reads consistently. You will see something in March.
Okay, thank you.
The 1st of March or the 5th?
beginning, she said beginning of March.
If you believe it. All right, good. Any other comments on the strategic priorities? Okay, hearing
Oh,
none.
sorry, can I just make one comment? If we're gonna be changing this, maybe look at putting 14 up into 3, like combining 14 and 3 perhaps, because it's creation of a daycare and street service. But that can go into the
We'll continue to be careful.
Seniors daycare.
senior daycare.
We'll see.
Yeah,
That's what we,
yeah, the daycare.
that's what we thought we.
Parents and
That's all, that's what we thought we realign that and bring that up.
Yeah, for sure. No, that sounds good. Thank you.
So, just to the chair, why would you take 14 to move it all up? Because you got rid of 6, the rest of them would just come up 1, so.
I think but they're tied together, sorry, through the chair. They're one of the same. We want to keep those 2 items together. No?
just
So
separate
they're
line.
included with, or it's still a separate priority?
I thought the respite service would be part of the healing center. That was the point. It was going to move into the healing center. Okay, good. Okay.
So maybe just thinking about this, if anybody has some concerns, maybe some input, maybe an email to Jen as we move forward on this, as to how you might see this. So she has some direction and staff will come back with some recommendations. Okay. All right, good. So that's it. So we're going to continue with the agenda. So we're going to start with the council report. So Councilor Busher, would you like to comment on anything that is happening in your world?
Okay, through the chair, thank you very much. Yeah, I attended a rail trail meeting with Jeff and Joe the other day. We did a very long meeting with basically the technical operating committee to look at the Sicamous as its own area. So yeah, we had some good conversations about temporary parking while they're building the new bridge, the access and stuff like that. So that was a good meeting. Jeff and Joe and staff, we also had another 2 wastewater treatment plant meetings. So that went over really well. So Jeff did a great job chairing those meetings. Yeah, fielding lots of calls from developers and a couple new businesses looking at Sicamous. So that's pretty key. And Evan and I have a rec center meeting tomorrow with Wayne and the staff. So yeah, looking forward to that too. So that's my council report.
Good, thanks. Pauline?
Thanks. I've got the Shuswap Water Council. Has some grant funding available up to $85,000 that I sent out an email to everyone. And it's for agriculture or even residential lakefront with issues with septic leaching into the lake or near fertilizer, things like that. So just if we have any residents for agriculture in the district, we should send them in that direction. I attended the active meeting last week. It was a good group, lively conversation. They as well are working on realigning their strategic priorities, so it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that meeting. They are also, ACTEV is also supporting a digital readiness program for businesses to assist them with their Google searches and just their website presence. I am part of the TAC committee, so I thought I'd just give you a quick update now that we're receiving MRDT money. Carly's working on lots of initiatives. Hashtag Explore Sicamous, putting together packages of what to see and do in Sicamous. So she's got that well under control and doing a great job of moving forward with advertising Sicamous and bringing our traffic here. The Chamber of Commerce is working on a new logo to align with the district and ACTEV and tourism committee. So this is what you guys don't care. This is what the logo looks like as District of Sicamous, and it's Chamber of Commerce below, ACTEV is below, Tourism Advisory Committee. So they're all pretty much standard now, which is great for important for identification, recognition, and consistency of messaging. The Chamber is also signing an MOU with the museum. So they are entering in, I think, March the 1st. Yeah, March the 1st, the Chamber visitor staff will assist with projects and management in the museum at the direction of the museum board. This will include applying for funding applications and display setup and presentation. So that marriage is just morphing into a really great relationship because now the museum is open all the time. The Chamber is assisting, visitor information centers assisting, and they're working together really well. And now they'll be able to get some funding for some special projects and things like that. So So as far as the DOS, Active, TAC, and COC, these groups are like working really well together. If we look back 6 years ago, we were all in a bunch of silos, but now we see everything is moving in one direction, and communication and transparency is really good. Just a reminder that Amanda is also waiting for councilors' newsletters, just in case any of you have not sent them. They were due on Monday, I think. So anyway, if you could get those to Amanda. And I also asked out an email to you guys not that long ago to see if you had anything that you wanted to share with Carly about great things to do in Sicamous, so she can, while she's compiling those tours and packages of things to see and do, if you've got any hidden nuggets or things that you want to share, it'd be great if you could share those or pictures with her so that she can put those together. Thanks, that's it for me.
Thanks, Councilor Anderson. Councilor McKee, you're up.
That's a hard act to follow. Set the bar high there, right?
Press conference.
Well, I did do the economic development meeting. I attended that. That was interesting. We're very lucky in our community to have such a diverse cross-section of people spending their own time without any compensation to help our community grow. And they've got a lot of great ideas. Met with the Seniors Housing Society with his worship, with our mayor and Evan and myself last week to talk about affordable housing. We showed up there as a delegation. As a result of that meeting, the Yuba Valley Senior Citizens Housing Society passed a resolution that they're willing to work with us towards us, as I mean the district of Sicamous, our community, towards affordable housing. In camera earlier today, we discussed our discussion from last week with affordable housing, and that was brought out of in camera. So I'm happy to say that both the district of Sicamous and the Yuba Valley Senior Citizens Housing Society have both passed resolutions to work forward together to bring affordable housing to our community, and without getting into any great details. Also met with the Eagle Valley News with Councilor Anderson and myself and Amanda, our staff communications officer, to discuss another great initiative that was a news release today that as of June 1st, we are going to be, as a community, we're going to own a community health center, our first publicly owned community health center in Sicamous. So that's pretty exciting news. And we've got a Dr. Locum coming here, not a locum, international medical graduate student in July coming for a 2-year contract. We still have Dr. Connick working half-time here. And that's very exciting news that we're moving forward with the community health center. And I'd like to thank Kelly and Evan for stepping outside of their "that's not my job" duties and learn all the things about health and the health center and how to run one and manage one. So thank you for that. And that's what it is.
Thanks, Councilor McKee. Councilor Harris.
I attended the interagency meeting last week with a lot of agencies that are active here in town and in Area E, and there's nothing, no news to report from there. It's just a lot of agencies cooperate well to make sure we've all got the same set of information.
Thank you. Councilor Moss.
So I've been spending a lot of my time since I got the replacement of Mayor Rice for the lead on the rail trail at lots of meetings, attended meetings, getting up to speed on what the next steps are going to be. Hopefully by the next council meeting, we'll have something to talk about. But it's interesting. And I'm optimistic that it'll all work out in the end for all parties concerned, including the district of Sicamous. That's what I spent my time. Thank you.
Councilor Evans.
Thank you. Last week, I attended the online library board meeting for Okanagan Regional Library. Our librarian, Kimberly Halta, said, tell your counselors to come and say hi to me in the library. There's a lot of new Canadian books, so she wants you to check those out. Interestingly, the library on the whole is up to 90% of what it was before COVID hit for circulation. So people are starting to get books and get lots of those. You can get movies, you can get all sorts of stuff. And interestingly, there's a huge demand for all these electronic books now. I love reading on my iPad, and that is way up with COVID. Lots of people getting digital books in their devices to do reading and stuff, because they don't have to go to the library. They just punch in their card and stuff and order their digital books. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Thank you. So, I guess over and above everything that's been said today, probably one of the biggest decisions that was made by the CSRD was our resolution in order to have Councillor Malmus take over my position on the Railway Trail Governance Board. So that's been endorsed. Major budgetary conversations over the last month when it comes to CSRD and of course the different job well done by our financial officers on both regards. Southern Interior Development Initiative Trust, also their budget came out and they're now looking at reopening up the funding opportunities and they've also been supported now by the provincial government with more grant funding as well. So that's interesting to see that happening. And I just have to say this when it comes to our staff, financial considerations, capital expenditures, and I made this comment this morning when it came to where we're at when it comes to grant funding, the projects that we're tackling day by day, and it's been brought out today just by listening to the council's report, the amount of effort, energy, forward thinking, and teamwork that's been constructed both by our council and our staff. And it's really refreshing to see some of this stuff really moving forward. For example, the bridge over the Eagle River. I mean, it's not been an easy project, and we're about 40% complete now, and that's going to be a major asset to the district of Sicamous, along with affordable housing, along with the doctors, and us taking over the medical clinic and so forth. A lot of hard decisions made by this council, but really moving this community forward. I'm really, really proud to see this happen. So that's my report as the mayor, and I'm going to recommend now that the committee of the whole Mount Rising report at 6:10. And that is there anybody that might be on the way that might want to ask a question of the councilors at this particular stage before we move into our next delegations?
So if anybody online would like to ask a question to council, please raise your hand and you will be given an opportunity to speak. You half a minute there to get on. Use the little like countdown clock like a game show. Okay, we've got Trevor Shansky. So Trevor, you should be able to unmute here.
Hello there. I don't see anything. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so the very first thing that I want to state is that this is my first council meeting. I plan to attend every single one from this period forward. One of the things that I want to address right now is how difficult it is to hear what's happening on these meetings. Perhaps we could do a little bit more as far as technical goes, so that people like myself can actually hear what's going on.
Yes, Trevor, thank you for your comments. That is in the works. Right now, we are limited with what we have on site for video and audio quality. It is in our budget for this year to do significant room to improve acoustics, quality, and video stream. And this is a priority for us on the IT side. But unfortunately, right now, we are doing the best we can with what we have.
So let me ask you this: if all you people are sitting in the same room, no masks, no anything, then what's stopping us public from coming in there?
Yeah, so in the council meetings right now, based on provincial regulation, we've been informed that we can only hold these meetings by Zoom or, and in the council meeting right now, we actually have between each compartment is plexiglass. And when we come into the actual council chamber, wearing masks and we social distance. So we're following all the rules and regulations that are brought forward to us by the provincial government and the healthcare officers to the best of our ability. We would love to be able to have everybody come back into the council chambers, and we're waiting for that day, and we'll be more than happy when we can accommodate that. But for right now, that's the condition that we have to work under.
So just so you understand, they're not provincial laws, they're mandates, first of all. I won't get into all of that with you right now, but what I will say is that when I'm invited to come to a council meeting and I can't understand basically at least 60% of what's going on because you guys don't have the technology going on within the council meeting for us to be able to hear, I don't want to hear any more excuses. I want to be able to hear what's going on. I'm sure that anybody that has partaken in this meeting would agree with me.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Parliament, do you want to comment any regarding regulation? Okay, good. All right, is there anyone else that is, okay, any other comments that you have at this stage?
Sorry. Good.
Any more?
Okay, hearing none, no one else has raised their hand, so that's good.
Okay. All right, thank you for that. And so we will move on now. So Amanda, do you have the delegation lined up for us? We will move into the next section, which is BC assessment overview of the 2021 assessment role in Sicamous. Or we can have communities in Bloom or all in Marina, however you want to put that together.
Yeah, Amanda's online, so she can just.
What do you need me to do?
If you want her up on the screen for these guys,
Yeah.
go into your just browser and go to the home page or. She's online, you guys can speak to her. The simple stuff.
So BC assessment.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, I'm Amanda Wellens. I'm a deputy assessor in the Thompson Okanagan region. If somebody can just give me a thumbs up that they can hear me, that'd be great. Okay, awesome. So thank you so much for inviting me to present tonight. Thank you to Mayor, Council, staff, and anyone else who's listening into this council meeting today. I have prepared a presentation, so I'm hoping that I have some sharing capabilities, which I believe that I do. So, this was distributed to council beforehand, so I hope that everyone had a chance to kind of quickly skim it over. Yeah, so I'm just going to talk briefly about who BC Assessment is, how we value properties, and a few other important facts about our organization. I'll also talk about how assessments and taxes, how they relate to each other. I'll be speaking about the 2021 assessment role overview. So that might be the most interesting piece for council because it will relate to the district. I'll be speaking about the appeals process and then finally just about how the district can collaborate with BC Assessment. So BC Assessment has been around for over 45 years. We were established in 1974 under the Assessment Authority Act. We are a provincial crown corporation, and we operate independent districts like yourself and politics. As you can see, in 1975, we had just shy of 900,000 properties assessed, and this year we saw more.
Sorry, do you mind holding your bud still? It's rubbing against your shirt or your hair and
Oh,
cuffs.
sorry. Okay. Thank you for that. So in 1975, we had just shy of 900,000 properties assessed. And in 2021, so that just this past year or current year, we're seeing more than 2.1 million properties assessed. For those of you who are not familiar with what our product is, we do provide and prepare an annual assessment roll, and that lists property values, ownership, value, classification, and exemptions. And this year, with those 2 million properties, we were assessing a total value of over $2 trillion. And what this means for the district of Sicamous is that it provides you that stable and predictable just base that you can use when you prepare your property taxes. So we value the majority of properties using market value, and the definition is listed there, the most probable price for which a property would sell. And that would be for all our residential properties, strata properties, commercial properties, and the like. And there are a handful of properties that are valued using a legislated rate, and those would be like farm properties and certain utilities. So there's quite a few different factors that can affect the market value, location, land characteristics. Is it waterfront? Does it have some topography issues? Land use controls, which would include zoning, building characteristics, so a 1-story versus a 2-story house. And for commercial properties, we do consider the income potential. We also are legislated to classify properties, and we have 9 property classes that we use, ranging from residential to farmland. And the majority of the properties within the province of BC, including Sicamous, fall within the residential class. So more than 90% of the properties within the district would be classed residential, and the remainder would fall into one of the other classes. So usually business and other is the second highest, it's the second most popular class used, and then also recreational and nonprofit. And that includes park spaces, churches, and meeting halls like that. BC Assessment follows an annual cycle. So in our first quarter, we deal with inquiries and our first level of appeal. And I'll get into that on a later slide, so I won't spend too much time there. Throughout the spring and summer, that is when we work on our assessment projects. If we have any reassessments that we would like to do, that's when we complete them. This is also the time where we try to get out and inspect any new construction or any significant changes that may have happened at properties. April 30th is our deadline for property owners to appeal to PAB, which is our second level of appeal, the Property Assessment Appeal Board. And then July 1st is the valuation date that we use. So for our 2021 assessments this year, we're using July 1st, 2020 as the valuation date. And then in that final quarter, that is what we call our roll production quarter. That's when we really analyze and just kind of look at what the market has done. We look at the sales, and we trend. So if we see that properties are selling more than they did a year ago, then for the most part, assessed values would be going up for that year. A few other important dates to remember: October 31st is the physical condition and permitted use date. So that means if somebody started, for example, building a house in the springtime, we would take into consideration how far that construction got them to October 31st. And in regards to permitted use, if a zoning change came through, we would reflect what the zoning would be or would have been on October 31st. And then November 30th, that's the ownership that we use land title records. And so We're working towards the November 30th date to reflect that correct ownership. Just for council, just so that they have an idea, BC Assessment does typically finish their roll production in early December, so that we do have enough time to print and to mail off the assessment notices. So we cannot keep up to date with ownership much further than November 30th. And then December 31st, as I mentioned, we produce those assessment notices and mail them. And then the other item that we do strive for is liability for taxation. So if a property did change hands between a taxable entity and a non-taxable entity or an exempt entity, then we would reflect that. So if I sold the district piece of property in that month, we would make sure that the district would be exempt of taxes for that piece of property. The next two slides are two diagrams that we do include on the back side of our assessment notices. And we hope that most of our property owners do at least kind of review these infographics and make themselves familiar. You know, the first one is about relationship between assessment and taxation. So it's just showing how the BC assessment values are multiplied through the property tax rates that are set by each taxing jurisdiction, and that's how we arrive at the property taxes payable. And the second infographic here is just a general overview of what property owners might expect if they see if their property values change, if it's lower, similar, or higher to the average change for their property class. And we do print the average change on the front side of the assessment notice, so they do have that comparison there. So the 2021 assessment rollover view. So this might be a bit more interesting because it will deal with the district. This first slide is for the province in general. So we saw just over a 1% increase of the amount of properties that we did assess in this last year. And we also saw, in general, we saw the market go up, so almost to 4%, and that got us to that just over $2 trillion. What we did see a decrease in, at least at the provincial level, was a decrease in total non-market change. Non-market change is brand new construction or changes like that, or any zoning changes. And the reason for the decrease is, you know, there was probably less permits that were issued, and also BC assessment was limited in, you know, we couldn't go out as freely as we had in previous years to do those inspections. So that's why we did see that drop there. But for the district, it was a little bit different. So we did see a slight folio growth in the total number of properties assessed from the prior year. The market went up there, so we see a 5% increase just overall compared to the previous year. So now Sicamous has an assessment roll of $957 million, and the total non-market change. So you saw $6 million of new assessments that you hadn't seen in the previous year. So that was that 0.7%. So that's positive for a community of your size. In early January, we do have media releases, and in our media releases, we did share that the single family residential market saw a change between 5 to 10%, and on average, it was about that 7%, so right in the middle there. So an average single family home from 2020, which would have been valued at $298,000, saw an increase in the 2021 assessment to $318,000. Strata saw a slight decline, and your commercial and industrial market was still on the positive or was relatively stable. Our appeal process, this is what myself and my staff are in the midst of right now. In January, we have the entire month set aside as an inquiry period. That's when property owners do receive their assessment notices, and we do encourage them, if they have questions, that they can reach out and contact us either by phone or by email or by using our website. We have some great options there as well, just to contact us. A BC assessment staff does call you back or gets back to you. If you email them, we might be emailing you back. And we have some pretty high customer service standards. So you do hear from someone within 2 business days. And we also encourage our property owners to check out our website. It has just a ton of information. And a lot of our property owners find that useful as one of their steps, just to research their assessed values. This year, our appeal deadline was pushed to February 1st because typically it's January 31st, but this year it fell on the weekend. And so that's property owners have until then to file an appeal on their assessment. It has to be written, and it is free of charge. So very few barriers to appealing your property assessment. And then from February 2nd to March 15th, that is when we schedule our hearing. So everyone has the opportunity to present information in front of a 3-person tribunal, which is independent of BC assessment. And our tribunal is called the Property Assessment Review Panel. And this year, because of COVID, all of our hearings are being held via teleconference. So we have a separate website where appellants or the complainants can upload their information, and then they schedule an appointment, and then they present the information that they've uploaded to the website to this panel, and that's how the hearing is held. And then April 30th, as I mentioned on the previous slide, if somebody still disagrees with the decision that was made at the Property Assessment Review Panel level, they are able to appeal to the next level. This next slide is just showing, while it says percentage of folios appealed, it just means the number of folios that saw a change through our appeal period. So the provincial average is 1.3%. Sicamous has a 5-year average of 3.8%. And the reason is, especially for the last 2 years, we've seen an increase in appeals due to the strata self-storage. And that's in relation to a classification concern there. But I also wanted to just put into perspective, Sicamous has 2,700 folios. So it does appear like it's a big spike, but it's not super big, just because of the percentage. But this is probably the slide that you should focus a bit more on. And it's just how the percentage change between the completed roll, and the completed roll is what is sent out to all property owners in January, to the revised roll, which is how we settle everything through the appeal process. So within those 3 months, that's how we everything gets settled. And the revised roll values, that is what your finance department uses when they prepare the property tax notices there. So even though there's a dip or two there, the provincial average is negative 0.26%. So that means the roll changes ever so slightly, and Sicamous, your average is negative 0.24%. So it's quite a stable assessment roll. You see the slightest of a dip, but it's not, your finance department is still able to budget and able to, forecast the tax rates with some degree of certainty there. And just to conclude, I wanted to just discuss collaborating with BC Assessment. So we do ask, like all of our local governments, if they are able to collaborate with us, and it's, we have some 4 main points here just to ensure fair and equitable property, maintain a stable and predictable assessment roll, and also just to increase citizen awareness of property assessment and taxation. So we have a few ways that the district can share their information with us. And as you can see in this chart, there's quite a bit of information that we do look for and we do request of different taxing jurisdictions. And I would like to say, I do thank the district for Sicamous. We have, my staff and your staff have formed quite a good relationship. And I do thank the district staff for just being so readily available to share information, especially regarding building plans and building permits and things like that. In this last year, BC Assessment launched Citrix ShareFile, which is a cloud sharing platform. So if anyone's familiar with Dropbox, it's similar to that. It's a secure platform. And so we're trying to pivot to that just to give a one-stop shop for all taxing authorities just to upload all their information there instead of using email, which is still quite a common occurrence for a lot of cities and districts. And then just finally, I just wanted to end off, I had mentioned our website earlier before. If you have not gone there, I would recommend just checking it out. Just pop in your own property address and just make sure that your information is correct. And if it isn't, there's a way you'll see a button you can report if you don't feel that your information is correct there. And you can also just see your surrounding neighbors, and you can see what's sold in your general vicinity. And I find that each year our IT department is able just to tweak it just a bit more, and it's quite useful information. We also have a ton of other maps and things like that to look at as well. So that was my presentation. I thank you very much for your time, and I'll stay on for a couple more minutes if anyone has questions.
So you're open for questions then?
Yes.
Okay, Councillor Malmus, you're up, and David and Councillor Bushell.
Thank you for the informative report on tax evaluation assessment. About a question, I know you've had some conversation with our staff, but I personally haven't heard what the results are or what the considerations are. There are some properties that have been assessed as waterfront that are actually not waterfront, especially on the west side of our community along the rail trail. So was there a reevaluation done on those properties? I know that most of the upland owners did not appeal their property tax assessment. So my question is that after having conversation with our staff, what was your resolve?
I did have, yeah, so that was brought up, I believe, in the fall, right? I think late summer or early fall. I did bring it to the attention of my appraiser. It was reviewed, and we made sure that those properties along the west side of the narrows there were being treated, equitably and fairly, and it wasn't a full reassessment, so no. So, and like you stated, yeah, no one appealed their property assessment. So, yeah.
So the question, Amanda, sorry, it's out.
Yeah.
Specifically, the question is, a lot of landowners on the west side claim that they don't have waterfront property per se, in that they don't have direct access to their dock, that there's a trail in front of them. They claim that the realtors are claiming that they have semi-waterfront. I've been trying to tell the realtors, based on my knowledge of BC assessment and valuation, that BC assessment doesn't differentiate between waterfront and non-waterfront. It's just waterfront. And the market dictates the value, regardless if there's a rail to trail there. Yeah. The market, the value is the value. Can you expand on that a little bit, Amanda?
Well, yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. It is the market that dictates the value there. And just to kind of touch on that, and just for the other counselors who may not have been privy to the whole conversation, there was discussion about, realtors saying that it isn't waterfront or it's semi-waterfront. I haven't seen any information from those realtors, so I don't know what other factors they're considering. So I'm not too sure what the concern is, if it's just like somebody's been called waterfront or semi-waterfront, if it's just a descriptive factor like that, or if it actually ties to the assessed value, because that hasn't really been clearly communicated by the parties who are concerned.
What we're told by the lot owners, some lot owners, is that because of the crossing agreement and the rail to trail, they're properties are losing value in the opinion of their realtors, in the opinion of their lawyers, because of the draconian language in the crossing agreement. And I'm saying that's not being reflected with the market valuation each year that BC Assessment puts out. Those properties continue to appreciate in value. And so it's anecdotal for any other authority, real estate, legal, otherwise, telling lot owners that their properties are losing value because of a dispute with the crossing agreement. That is not consistent with what the market's saying. That's my interpretation. That's how I see it.
Okay, yeah. From what I've been told or just made aware is that crossing agreement, I think, just came into place this last year. And we haven't seen any sales, any market evidence that is showing that there is actually a depreciation of value. That hasn't been demonstrated by the market. If that does happen because of the crossing agreement, then our assessed values can, and our assessed values don't drop, then we can discuss that. But everything is still quite new and fresh, and we haven't seen the market react to that agreement yet. So we'll just have to wait. Yeah.
So Amanda, to that end, the thing is that there are some properties listed across there that are listed at, 1.2, 1.6, 2 billion. The offers are coming in at like 50%. So if you're waiting for a reflection in an actual sale,
yeah,
that's a bit ridiculous on BC Assessment's part.
Well, but what you stated was the listings. So I don't know what the assessed values are. So is the final sale price comparable to what the assessed value is? Because anyone can ask anything for a listing price, like as a listing price. And if they get an offer below, I mean, that's what's come in. But I would ask that, like that's where you can use our website just to see what the 2021 assessed values are. And if some of these sales have just transpired in the last month or two, then they'll be used for the 2022 assessment roll. So as the previous slides have shown, we're looking at the information that we have readily available, like in October, November. And if some of these sales have come really late, then we'll have to consider them in the next year. But I will keep this, that Western side there on my radar for the upcoming years, just to see if something actually does change in the market value for sure.
Yeah, thank you. You may have answered my question. Thank you for your presentation, by the way. When a property sells, what's the timeline between after the title changes and the property sale is posted on BC Assessment?
Yeah, we do try to keep that information relatively accurate. So there's a few timelines to consider, like a property sells, and then it has to be registered at land titles as well. So if there's a delay there, that means there's a delay to BC Assessment as well. We do get a regular, like a weekly sales feed from land titles. And so we'll see stuff come in from, a few months earlier or something that just happened in the last week or two. So it all depends on like how quickly things are conveyed as well. And then we do try to update the sales available that you can see on the website about every 2 to 3 months. So we'll try to get that information on there. And the sales information the prices and dates we do share are what we consider qualified sales. So we consider those like, fair market sales. Sales that aren't included, let's just say if there was an estate transfer, from the owner to the executor, those won't be included. Or if there was like part interest sales, you added another owner to your title, that kind of thing. Those won't be included, but if it's a fair market sale, yeah, it should be.
Right, one more question. Councilor.
Thanks for the presentation, Amanda. Just a quick question on your for our folio assessed. How many businesses versus residents Do you know that number?
I don't know it off the top of my head, but I can look it up and I can send that information to Jennifer.
Just curious. Thank you.
Thanks, Amanda. Any other comments from council at this stage? All right, thank you for your presentation, and I think you've answered quite a few of our questions that were concerned, so we'll see how this all works out moving forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Amanda.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
All right, moving on. So we have Deb Heap, Communities in Bloom. Is she on now?
She is on. Go ahead and unmute Deb.
Come on, Deb. You're up.
Unmute. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So first, my apologies if anybody's tried to text me since I sent out my last email yesterday. My cell phone has been disconnected accidentally by my cell phone provider. So best way to reach me is email. So the next part is I tried to pare down my list a bit from the email that I had sent out for discussion a month ago, with the idea being that we could work through some immediate priorities. So Jeff has given me a date of April 17th or 24th for the community cleanup. Can we say the 24th and then I can kind of get to work on it? I'm just thinking later's probably better, but I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that, but Amanda's, sorry, go ahead.
We are fine with that.
Okay.
That's good.
Yeah, because Amanda's also asking me for some communications, as Colleen was mentioning about newsletters and such. So if I've got a date, I can work with her on that. The judging, as I mentioned before, we've already paid for it for this year because it's carried over. Are you guys okay with me going ahead with, I think it's going to be virtual, but are you okay with me going ahead with judging for this year?
Yeah, I don't see any problem with that, Deb. I think just go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to say yes to that. As far, I've got an agreement with the resource center, with the Legion / farmers market and the Red Barn to go ahead with cedar panels. I'm thinking I would use part of my budget for that. So it's again a Main Street revitalization project as well, because you can see it from Main Street. So that would dress that up a bit. So there's a possibility that if I don't use a bit of my budget, I could do a donation. I'm also looking at something. I'll come back to Brian Tancock at ACE. But if nobody has any issues, I will do that in the best way possible. And everybody's in agreement. And we're going to give the resource council, the resource center, the kind of right of veto on what we're going to put on those panels and such. But honestly, it sounds like everybody's on side with that. If you guys are good with that.
Yeah, I think without question, green light on that. I see councilors all nodding their head.
Okay, perfect. So the other thing is, as I mentioned before, the beach park and the Paradise Entrance flowers installations. I don't know if you guys have figured out yet what you're doing on the beach park or when that would be, but I've talked to Daryl and he's ready to go ahead with the Paradise Entrance, him and I and Andy sitting down on that. And I think I can get Buckerfields to supply the plants for that. So just as kind of a heads up, but I think I can get a sponsor for the beach park as well. So as soon as you guys are ready to move forward with that, let me know and I will get on that. So I'm going to go ahead with that. And then I did meet with Brian Tancock today, and he said he is good for a project donation this year. So I had mentioned before the idea of possibly Main Street lighting, the caboose, the fire hall, archway signage, southeast corner of Main and Shuswap, daycare, or bike racks. So I'm willing to look at any of those in terms of getting some sponsors. So if you guys, I know I've hit you with a bunch right there. So if you guys can give some thought to which of those you're on side with, which of those you're not, and let me know, then I can start to get to work on those projects as well.
Just do them all, Deb.
Yeah, well, you know what? I might be able to. The fire hall is the one. Like, I know Brett had issues last year with people using the washrooms if they were doing kind of the trim on the fire hall and that. And so Brian Tancock would love to do the fire hall, but I know Brett couldn't get his head around it last year. So if he can, we can do that one, and I can work on some of the others with other people. But think about that. But like with the ones I've mentioned before that, I've got a pretty good list to get started, so I'm not too worried about it. But if there's stuff that you guys are really excited about or want to see happen in the rest of that list, let me know and I'll get to work on those right away.
All right.
Otherwise, Daryl and I are going to get together, and the hanging planters are going to happen. We will work on that, and I've got some volunteers as far as some other weeding and planting. So, that's where I'll talk to Amanda and we'll get some stuff out there. But I've actually already got some volunteers lined up in that. So.
Okay.
So the only other thing I was going to mention, there are some good grants out there, but Deb Heap as a personal, citizen cannot apply for them. And some of them are coming up kind of in the next week. I don't know, if you guys are interested in applying for any of them or not. If you are, we got to get on them right quick, but I can't do them as a person. So, let me know if you do want to do any of those, but those are kind of an immediate requirement.
All right, Councilor Anderson has a question or a comment, and so does Councilor McCabe. Councilor Anderson.
You bet.
Hi, Deb. Good job. Hey, my first question is, how are we coming through to you? Can you hear us really well, or?
Sorry, how are we what?
Can you hear us very well? Or
I can, you know what? Not as clearly as I'd like, but not bad. Some better than others.
Okay, thank you. And my next comment is the beach park, and I just want to look over at Joe. Because of the building going up and the construction there, looks like a July 1st finish. So we may be late for some planters and things there. They may be in the way, but I'll look to Joe right now for his comments on that.
Thank you, Councillor. Hi, Deb.
Yep.
Deb, you're not in town just now, are you?
Yes.
Are you in town just now, Deb?
Yeah, honestly, I'm sitting in the Askews parking lot in my truck. So.
Okay.
That's kind of creepy.
Okay, I can see you now.
Exactly. I'm waving.
I can see you through the window, which is kind of eerie. Okay, so we have an on-site meeting tomorrow with McDermott Construction. If you'd like to meet tomorrow at 2 o'clock, we can.
2 o'clock? I can do that.
Absolutely.
And at the beach park, because if you guys are are looking to be a bit later, I can put that project later, and I can look at getting some donations with that. I'm assuming you'd like some landscaping, and I'm happy to help out, but I understand that it may not be as quick as the other things. It's all good, but I will be there at 2 o'clock tomorrow.
Thank you, Deb.
Councilor McCabe.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, Deb. Thanks for your email. On the grants you were talking about, there's there's 3 or 4 different grants. Community Spaces, Scots Canada, CFNO.org, Communities and Live. I didn't click on the link to those, but off the top of your head, what's the dollar value of any one of those grants, and what's
the Scots one is only, I think, about 2,500. Some of them are up to 25,000. And, so honestly, I was thinking with some of them that, if we did want to do something at 200 Main or something, there's some good possibilities. It's just, yeah, I can't personally do it, and I don't have access to the information to do it even. So I'm throwing it out there, but they are quick deadlines. So.
Know if any of those funds required match funding?
I'm not sure on. I think some might, but I think a lot of them are just, I think a lot of them are fairly open. They're unfortunately just early year grant deadlines. So.
Deb, I appreciate what Councilor McKay is saying, but we've got a list of what you pointed out here, and I'll have a chat with Jen tomorrow, and we'll start doing some research as to what the criteria is around these grants.
Yeah, I think it's worth a real quick look. I hate to say this to you guys, but I can make my budget work all day long with trying to do local sponsorships and different things. It would be nice, things like the caboose, it would be nice to, if any of those grants, if you look at them and you go, man, this is quick and dirty, we can get it out and do it right now, absolutely go for it. If you're just slammed and you can't get it done, I'll get most of this stuff done with what I've got.
Well, we'll see if we can give you a little bit of help.
That would be lovely.
All right, anything else, Deb, that you want to bring forward?
No, like I mentioned, thanks to Amanda for, she already contacted me about getting the word out about some stuff. I will get to work on, with her and the community cleanup and getting back to the Bible church about the flower bed cleanup, and the Legion has said they'll help with lunches. And I'm getting, I haven't talked to a ton of people, but anybody I've talked to has already said, yep, Deb, we're there. We'll help you with whatever we can. So.
There's only one thing, Deb, that I'm concerned about, and that is that we need about 25 or 30 more of you.
Yeah, good luck with that.
You're absolutely amazing, and I know you don't like compliments, but I just got to continue to give them to you. All right.
No, it's all good. It's all good. I get lots of support and help. So.
Good. All right. Any other comments or questions from council at this stage? All right, Deb, thanks very much, and we'll be in touch.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks,
Deb. Thank you.
All right, so all in marina request for the use of the wharf under bylaw number 935. Do you have this particular individual?
Yeah, this is Trevor Shefsky, and he is online. Trevor, you should be able to unmute now.
There I am. So I'm not sure how to approach this, council. I want to say a few things before we even get into what the topic at hand is. First of all, I'm very disgusted as to how I've sat for 2 hours listening to virtually 50% of what you have to say because of your poor voice recording, your technology that you have going on within the chamber. Okay, it's pathetic. It echoes. It's terrible. It's hard to understand. I don't know if that's by design, but I want you to note it. Okay, because I sat here for 2 hours listening to you guys, and I could hardly understand 50% of what was happening.
Trevor, point well taken, and we are working on this without question, and we've made that point to you, and we'll continue to work on it. And we hope that we'll get this cleaned up as soon as possible. So
this is Mayor Rice, right?
That's the mayor.
Okay, so you're the head of the council, Mayor. So this has been going on for months. There's no reason why we don't have it figured out by now. Okay, it's simple. Plug it into the computer. Get a distribution center going on. I mean, it's pathetic. It's almost like you guys have something to hide. Okay, so I'm going to start there. That's where I'm starting. I'm not happy with how I've sat for 2 hours to listen to all of this stuff, which I could hardly hear. First of all, secondly, is I'm a a citizen of this district that has a concern, and I shouldn't have to sit on here for 2 hours before I get to my voice heard, okay? This is not cool. It's not cool. It's not acceptable. That's my first statement. Secondly, what I'm here for tonight is apparently I have to ask permission to use the public launches for my business. I want to make this clear, okay? I have been stopped at every turn recently with my business by this district, whether it be a business license, whether it be where I launch my boats, whether it be it's ridiculous. Okay. I'm not a happy business person within this community. Number one. Number two is that I'm very disgusted that I am sitting here in front of council after 2 hours of wasting my time to simply have to ask to use a public, let me add, boat launch, which every business in town utilizes, other than two that I'm aware of, would be Carol at the marina and Todd at Papa's. They have their own boat launches. Every other business, in fact, the one I left that started out now as Splash Marina, have they asked for your permission to use a public boat launch? I don't think so. So why am I being singled out?
I don't know any details.
I'm having, okay, so does any of our staff want to make a comment?
Any of our staff? Oh, we don't know anything. Yep. Typical.
Trevor. It's Evan.
Hello?
Can you hear me, Trevor?
Vaguely, yes.
It's National Anti-Bullying Day.
It's what?
You turned down the rhetoric?
What?
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mayor.
I can't hear you.
I'm not gonna participate in it. Just schedule a meeting offline, off council, and we can talk about it. I'm not gonna engage online when obviously there's a hearing in Maryland. I'm not gonna do it.
So shall we have a meeting via a phone call then?
Sounds good.
You heard that.
Sounds good.
I would love to talk to council about this. This is why I am at this meeting.
So Trevor, so the recommendation right now, I see you have some concerns, but obviously by the tone of your voice. And I think the recommendation is that if you wish, you can give me a call and we can have a conversation, and I will direct traffic between myself, yourself, and staff, and we'll see if we can get this, we can get your concerns looked after to the best of our ability. Based on
Is this Mayor Rice talking to me again? I'm sorry, I'm on a phone, so I don't.
I'm gonna give you one more minute, and we're gonna move on with this meeting.
Hold it! Whoa! What? I'm sorry, I don't hear what's happening, and you want to move on?
So I would like to give you the opportunity to call me. Okay, call me and I will have a conversation with our staff, and we will see if we can recognize your concerns, and then maybe we can work on them. But we're not going to be doing that in this sort of a bashing that you're giving us in this particular meeting right now.
Well, I'm really sorry to hear that, because I've been waiting for weeks and I spent 2 hours on this meeting to actually get down to the bottom of this. And now you tell me you don't want to deal with it? I
will deal with you, and we'll deal with this through staff.
Well, I was told that I had to deal with it on this meeting. So
I'll give you a minute now to recognize what I'm offering you. I'm offering you an opportunity to call me, and we're going to work with staff, and we're going to see if we can recognize your problem and get it rectified. That's how we're gonna deal with it, not through
Yeah.
this.
I gotta ask this question. I'm sorry, I have to ask this question. So I was dealing with staff weeks ago, and I was told, and I was.
All right, moving on. Oh. Sorry, I lost it. All right, so development variance permit. Application number 20-229-DVP in brackets 1017 Riverside Avenue. Recommendation that council approve development variance permit number 20-229-DVP to permit the construction of a garage and office with deck subject to the conditions outlined in the draft permit included as attachment 1, and that the corporate officer be directed to issue development variance permit number 20-229-DVP this 24th day of February 2021. I need a mover on this. Councilor Malmo, seconded by Councilor Harris. Sarah, can you give us a report?
Chair. The applicant, Brian Anderson, is in attendance.
Bit louder, Sarah.
You have to
Closer.
speak right up to that mic, yeah.
Hold that microphone, Sarah.
Yeah.
Hold it, Sarah.
There you go.
Thank you, Chair. The applicant, Brian Anderson, is in attendance tonight via Zoom. The subject property is located at 1017 Riverside Avenue near Temple Street and is zoned R1 and 2 single and 2 family residential, as well as the other properties. The applicant proposes to construct a 2-story garage with office space above and a deck. A height variance from 6 meters to 7.5 meters as noted in the ground level is requested. The garage is proposed to be sited in the rear yard, which is covered by an image here.
Okay. Covered by council.
Note that the garage meets the setbacks per the zone. And note that the site plan has been revised. The site plan shows a suite on the second story, but it's actually one unit offices on the bottom. The requested height variance is to allow 9-foot ceiling in the garage that's below the office there to accommodate vertical plywood storage and to allow the applicant to retain a pitched roof. The garage is proposed to use as a shop for personal projects. The requested variance is considered to be reasonable and no negative impacts are anticipated. The application was referred internally and no concerns were raised. Notification was mailed to property owners intent within 50 meters of the subject property on February 9th, in accordance with the development application procedure by law. No responses have been received. Thank you, Chair.
And Brian Anderson is online if you want him to speak.
Councilor Malmo, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's a good project. It's zoned for it. I did talk to Brian. He got no responses because he went and had talked to all his neighbors. So he's done everything right. So I don't have any objections to this PP.
Any other comments or questions? Councilor Bushel, go ahead.
Yeah, this looks like another fine project by Baby Homes, so I'm in support of it.
All right, any other comments or questions?
I'll look at that.
call the question. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you, Sarah. Okay, but don't sit down. We're going to move into the next one. Development variance permit application number 20-341-DVP 709 Riverside Avenue. Recommendation that council approve development variance permit number 20-341 DVP to permit the placement of a freestanding sign subject to the conditions outlined in the draft permit included in as attachment 1, and that the corporate officer be directed to issue development variance permit number 20-341 DVT upon approval of sign permit application number 20-341- sign. I need a mover on this. Councilor Wallace, seconded by Councilor Anderson. Sarah, your report.
Sorry, guys, we're just waiting for the presentation. We're good. Okay. Thank you, Chair. The applicant, Warren Jensen, is not in attendance tonight. Subject property is located at 709 Riverside Avenue and is zoned C4 waterfront commercial. The property fronts onto Riverside Ave, and the butts are 1 and 2 zone properties on the top and the right sides of the ortho photo. It is currently developed as a storage facility and is a site of lakeside storage. The applicant is proposing to construct a new structure to handle an existing sign within the front yard of the subject property. The proposed structure is 3.35 meters high and 2.6 meters wide. The proposal differs slightly from the submitted plans, please note. It will have only one support mounted on the which is already being poured. So we're talking about the image in the bottom right corner that shows 2 supports for the sign. The sign itself is original and has been refurbished. So that photo in the top right corner has an approximate base area of 4.74 meters. A variance to permit an extension into the front setback from 1 meter to 3 meters is required to permit the proposed siting of the sign structure. Dimensions of the proposed sign are consistent with the sign bylaw. Note the applicant has pulled the siting of the sign structure up to the building further from the front lot line in the original sign location. So the photos on the left, and then the site plan on the top right there is showing the variance that's needed. These photos show the location of the footing for the proposed sign, the location of the front lot line, staged by BCLS, BC Land Surveyor, and the new landscaping. Note that the site is constrained by siting of the existing building and the location of the front lot line relative to other properties in proximity to the road. So you can see that back here. See how the front lot line jogs in. This makes siting the sign outside of the setback area a challenge, given the constraints and the effort of the applicant to reduce the variance request. The variance request is considered to be reasonable and is not anticipated to negatively impact the roadway or have negative aesthetic results. It is noted that there is an existing development permit on title for the property which requires landscaping provided. The new landscaping is considered to be generally consistent with this development permit. The application was referred to the internal departments for comment. The building inspector indicated that a building permit will be required to address the footing and noted that wind loading and part 4 of the building will need to be addressed. Operations commented that the ditch within the road of the building is part of the landscaping and must be addressed. An enforcement letter to this effect was sent on December 10th of 2020. Notification in accordance with the development applications procedures bylaw is mailed to owners and tenants with the subject on February 9th. The district received 1 written response. The respondent indicated that they were satisfied with the aesthetics of the proposed sign and landscaping. Thank you, Chair.
All right. Comments or questions from council? Councilor McCabe.
Thank you for your presentation. I see land standards there, district land standards, lighting, and so it's part of DCC's, I would imagine, or original permit. There's no sidewalk on that side of the street. If there was to be one in the future, how would that impact snow removal off the sidewalk? in relationship to the proposed sign location? Is there any future maintenance issues if a sidewalk eventually is there and for snow removal from the sidewalk, would that location of sign impact that maintenance through the chair, maybe to Joe?
Yeah, thank you very much to the chair. Excellent question. The maintenance on that ditch is the reason we put a stop work on the property itself. There is meant to be a maintained ditch there, and there wasn't a long-term plan to build a sidewalk along the east entrance on the east side of that street. So that was the purpose that we kind of went in and said we don't want any impediment, we don't want any rocks or anything else coming out past the property boundary, and we do need to re-establish that ditch. Because of the snow clearing and stuff that's there, it won't impact where that sign goes in any way, shape, or form, and the sign won't need our snow clearing, but we do need the ditch reinstated.
Go ahead.
So we've had a variance request from the same applicant before, and there seems to be a pattern here where the concrete foundation has already been poured, and then the applicant asked for a variance. The previous one was a fence on the beach where the foundation is already in place. The request for a variance. Is this foundation poured?
It has been poured, yeah, unfortunately, it is a pattern in this particular property.
So I don't really have a problem with this application. I'll probably vote for it, but I'm just going to point out that it shouldn't be repeated in the future. A permit should be required before the foundation's poured.
I have communicated that to the applicant, yes. Very clear.
I don't have a problem with this recommendation either, but I think there again, I probably will, because I was involved when it come to the issues prior with what he's done with the ditch, and Mr. McCall and I went over and had a conversation with him. And I might just have another chat with them as well, so that's to moving forward without going through the proper process, because I do agree with Councilor McCabe. And we'll say with that, I do support the recommendation. Councilor Moss,
I guess it's a refurbished sign. I guess he could have left the two posts that were there and stuck it in, and he wouldn't have to come in here. So our sign bylaw might need an update, because it actually states in it that you can, that we want you to put a sign up to maintain it and keep it looking respectful. So he's refurbished the sign, the original sign. It's a great looking sign. So if you already had a sign there, you're conformed, why would it have to have it? It came along after you already started the process. So I don't think it was his intention to step outside the boundaries and do something and come along and ask forgiveness later. I think that he thought he was just replacing the sign. I think he's aware and willing to work with the district on what he did in the ditch. But I mean, our bylaw does state that you're supposed to maintain your sign, which that's always the case. So
it was there before.
It was there before.
Okay. Okay.
It was there since 1980.
Well,
Yeah,
there's,
the image on the solar here.
Go ahead, Councilor Bushel, then Councilor McCabe.
Yeah, I got a phone call when this came up, and I did go talk to Lauren, and hopefully he's learning his lesson, but like Jeff says, it's an existing sign. I helped put that sign up years ago with Brad, and you know, as for the ditch, I guess Joe's inherited a problem. The entire Riverside Avenue on the east side is all filled in all the way along, and he went and filled in his, and of course he didn't know any better, maybe not, I don't know. So you kind of inherited a problem there. If we do put sidewalks in, we have to remember this. If we put sidewalks on both sides of the street, you have no place to put the snow. And then we do have to have dump trucks come in and a snow blower to take the snow out of the middle of the street, because you can't push it over. You can't push it down the street. It'll be the same problem as what they have on the Trans-Canada Highway. You have no place to put the snow, so you have to take it off by loader. So, yeah, it's a big problem down there on Riverside. And, you know, whether he has to, you know, if he had applied for a development permit and had to put in sidewalk, storm, street lighting, the lights that we were asked to put in on the other side of the street, we had to put in 600 feet of lighting, and sidewalk and gutter and storm. And now when Brad put his 2 lights in, you almost need sunglasses at nighttime down there because it's so bright. So, you know, Joe's inherited all kinds of problems, but I support this 100%.
Yeah, like, I'll vote for it, and I don't want to waste council's time, but I mean, this is, in my opinion, legal non-conforming. That's why there's an application in front of us, because it requires a variance in the offset. And ownership has changed. So when you're legal non-conforming and you change ownership, that's when you have to clean up your non-conformance.
Not 100%, it's more that you change the siting, so non-conformity, you just travel with the land.
So you could grandfather over different titles?
If it was in the same spot, right?
Right.
It has to do with siting, so he's moved it over. And so that's moved it towards the building and moved it back from the front of the building, if that makes sense.
Vote on it.
All right, I think we got some subjects, so I'm gonna call the question on the resolution. All those in favor? Very unanimously. Thanks, sir. Don't sit down. Okay, development permit application number 21-022-EP511 Thompson. PL signed 521 Thompson Crescent. Recommendation that council approve development permit number 21-022-EP to permit the development of a truck transfer site and small office building subject to the condition outlined in the draft permit included as attachment 1. And that the corporate officer be directed to withhold issuance of development permit number 21-022-DP subject to the confirmation that the district is satisfied regarding stormwater management and traffic impacts as outlined in the draft permit included as attachment 1. So I need a mover on this. Councillor Malmus, seconded by Councillor Bushel. Sarah, give us a report.
Thank you, Chair. The agent and the representative from the prospective buyer are both in attendance tonight by Zoom. Subject properties are located at 511 Thompson Place and 521 Thompson Court, just off of the Sicamous Road and about the computer line on the photo below, and country residential property on the bottom left of the photo. It is zoned I1A, light industrial, and is within the industrial development code area. The applicant proposes to develop a truck transfer site swapping transport trailers between Surrey, BC and Calgary, Alberta. The site is designed to accommodate 56 trailers and has parking for up to 5 passenger vehicles. The site is proposed to be surfaced with hard packed gravel and provide appropriate fencing and landscape screening from adjacent uses, such as the abutting country residential properties. Up to 100 trucks within a 24-hour period may pass through the site at approximately 4 to 5 per hour, which will be staggered. Only 1 truck will be on site at a time to manage traffic flow within the site, which will have downstream mitigative effects on the intersection of the Trans-Canada and Sicamous Road. The site grading and servicing plan is currently being revised to manage drainage within the site and to address concerns raised with soil and water contamination. A landscape buffer and tree retention is proposed to screen the site from budding uses such as the country residential properties. The zoning bylaw requires a minimum landscape buffer of 2 meters abutting a residential zone, so that would be abutting the country residential, and a minimum 3-meter buffer abutting a public road. The revised site grading and servicing plan and a landscape plan will be submitted with a subsequent application for variances to allow the site to be serviced with hard packed gravel and to reduce the extent of the perimeter landscape requirement. Adequate screening of the site will be addressed through the variance process. The application was referred both internally and externally, and the following comments were received. From the building inspector, the building permit is required to site the office building, which is an ACO type trailer. From operations and engineering, district bylaws regulate both stormwater and servicing requirements for parking areas and driveways. Storm sewer is not currently available in this area, and all divisions can be handled on site. No concerns were raised with internal traffic flow on the site, However, did concerns with impacts to the Sicamous Trans-Canada intersection were raised. From CP Rail, we received no comments as of today. From MOTI, the proposal doesn't trigger an approval requirement from the ministry due to the site area and construction value of the building. These comments have been passed on to the agent who is working with staff to address these concerns. Notification was mailed to property owners in town within 15 years of the property and fully unknown. 2 responses have been received, principally concerning traffic impacts. However, they also raised concerns with swinging, air, and noise pollution. These comments were passed on to the agent. Thank you, Chair.
Comments or questions? Councilor McCabe?
Thank you, through the chair. Are any of these trailers going to be switched there, going to have refrigerated units? And if they are, how are those refrigerated units going to operate? Are they going to operate from a truck, or is there going to be plug-ins for the trailers? So my concern is around air pollution and noise pollution. I support the application and the intent of the application, but I'd really like to see the whole, most of the surface area, all the parking paid for sure. But my question is, are any of the trailers refrigerated units? And if they are, and if there's product in the units, how are they going to be refrigerated while they're on site? If they're going to be refrigerated by the tractor unit, then I have some concerns about air pollution and noise pollution. If not, how is the applicant going to accommodate the refrigeration units with plug-ins or what?
The chair would like to direct the question to the agent. They are attendance.
Alex and Sean, you should both have the ability to unmute now.
Oh, hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Alex Karajo from KWSA Development Consulting. We're the applicant for the facility. I do not have an answer to that question raised by the councillor. I will have to ask the questions to the operator of the site and respond back to staff. The intent is for the trailers not to be stored there. They're just to be switched over by vehicles and then driven away. So there may be some trailers that would stay overnight. I just don't have an answer on the refrigeration part of the question.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Other comments or questions from council at this stage? Councilor Malmus?
So in our bylaw, it states we're to have an asphalt service, but you're given a variance by the hard pack service.
Yeah.
So, and I read a couple of the two letters and to the charity. It's an industrial park. I mean, you could have a guy out there moving steel and bagging it around. The shops that I had were steel manufacturing shops. I mean, we had 24 hours a day. The train track is 50 feet away. So, I mean, you can feel the ground shake when the train comes by. So, but it is an industrial park. And therefore, it should be considered that we allow dwelling on ours. And I understand by the drawing that the applicant is going to have a building on there, there'll be a full-time person there. So I assume that they're going to look after whatever's going on in that yard. If you're handling trailers, you have to leave enough room for people to get in and out, move, because the driving rules say they can only drive 10, 12 hours. So if they're coming from Vancouver to go to Calgary, and that's their switching yard, they're not going to hang around. They're going to hook up, unhook, and go. So I support this. I hope that the storm sewer issue can be dealt with reasonably and effectively, but I don't see the issues with this.
Councilor Bushel, go ahead, and then Councilor McGee.
Yeah, anything for employment I'm in favor of, and I know, I just was gonna ask Joe a couple questions. What did AMI do for landscaping, and what did they do for drainage? Did they put in their own septic? Or not septic, did they all put in their own dry wells?
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, AIM is the Ministry of Transportation contract on lot number 5, I believe. Yep, and what we did with them is we allowed them to put in a permeable surface as well, as opposed to an asphalt surface. So we didn't require for them to do that, just so we could try and help them along the way with storm drainage as well. But they did dry wells as part of their storm drainage system, and that was part of the reason of support for the Sicamous was to support a permeable surface as opposed to an asphalt surface to try and assist with some of the storm systems. We don't expect storm issues in that area of any significant level, but to help them along with it, we're willing to be a bylaw requirement for a cap surface. We did that with the storage facility close by as well. It was looking at a similar type product, and then we made that variant or made that suggestion, and they jumped on it straight away. We're very happy that it worked out.
Councillor Anderson, Councillor.
I'm sorry, I forgot the gentleman's name on the. Alex. Alex, can you just explain to us and those that are on Zoom exactly how the truck flow will move, and a number of trucks and how that traffic will be mitigated?
I'm not sure if sorry, am I unmuted or?
Yeah, you're good.
Oh, okay, sorry, I wasn't sure what the process is. So my understanding of the operation is a truck would come from Vancouver, uncouple the trailer, leave it there. A truck would come from Calgary, uncouple the Calgary trailer, park it in a spot, and those two vehicles would switch trailers and then they move away. Operationally, as the site is not very big and not to impede on the operation, everything is managed and scheduled such that no two trucks would come on site at the same time, and there's buffer between the vehicles arriving to the site and leaving the site at the origination points, i.e. Calgary or Vancouver, and then coming to the site. That's the operation from the way it's been explained to me, the way I understand it. Obviously, I know someone has raised the concern of the intersection. We've looked at some aerial views of the left turn bay. It's a fairly long Ministry of Transportation standard left turn bay. I should be able to accommodate the vehicles moving in and out. The intersection is fairly wide. That's kind of the gist of the operation of the trucks. I'm not sure if I hope that answers your question or satisfies the
Yes, thank you
question
very
that
much,
you had.
Alex. Yeah, thank you. I think that concern is just if there's going to be a steady stream of traffic or there's going to be buffers between those, so they won't be all lined up down across the bridge and waiting to get into the industrial park. So just checking on buffers, but thank you. You answered that very well.
Councillor Kane, you're up.
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, Councillor Malmus discussed noise a bit. I don't think noise is going to be a problem because the definition of noise in Sicamous, it's not by decimals, it's just by or whatever it's called. It's by the adjacent traffic. If it doesn't generate any more noise than the adjacent traffic noise, it wouldn't. And there's also a train that goes by there. I think it blows its whistle too every half hour or so. So I don't think it's reasonable to expect, to reduce the noise level, because I don't think it would be that too much. But we do have a letter of complaint from the adjacent property owner. It's asked council to address the noise and air pollution. I think the noise by council's definition is acceptable, but before I vote on this, I'd like to have more information on air pollution. Are there going to be refrigerated units, and how are they going to be run? Because if you got 56 units on there and they're refrigerated, even if it's for a half hour, and you turn over 100 trucks, a truck every 15 minutes or something, there's going to be a lot of on-site idling, if nothing else. And we have a community wellness plan, and in that plan, we're supposed to look at things through the lens of community wellness, and introducing air pollution to our community doesn't fit with our official community plan and our community wellness.
So Alex, I have a question for you as well. How many trucks at the maximum would be in that particular lot at one specific time? Maximum, how many trucks would be sitting in that particular area?
Well, the intent is to have one truck come to the site, do what it has to do, drop off the trailer, pick up a trailer and leave. If the question is, sorry, I'm answering the second question first, I apologize for that. If the question is whether there's going to be 3 or 4 or 5 trucks at the same time, my understanding is that's not going to be the case, as it impedes the operation. The distribution centers in either Vancouver and Calgary, and also on site. So
those trucks wouldn't be there for any length of time, so they're not going to be sitting on site for like 24 hours at one specific time.
that's my understanding. And then on the first question, I just wanted to understand better the definition of the air pollution. Is it from idling of the trucks and generating smoke, or I just wasn't 100% clear on what the concern for the air pollution was, where the air pollution is coming from.
If the reefer units or the refrigerated units need to be running during transfer or waiting for transfer, how are they being run? Is it by the tractor unit? And if so, yeah, my concern is
right.
That's air pollution.
Right.
The air, it settles on adjacent properties, the silt from it. It's it's a concern of mine, guys.
No, so my intent of the overall design is the trailers, there's no plugins for trailers or trucks on site for any purposes, by definition of having a plugin. So, and with respect to the trailers, I'm not 100% sure, as I said, if there's refrigerated trailers and if they're self-sufficient refrigerated trailers or they're run by the vehicle. As I said, the intent is to do the transfer and leave the site. So I'll have to get some clarification on that.
Two comments. Where I live is by the Husky truck stop. And so there are reefer trailers there. I don't hear them. The new systems are relatively quiet. The new trucks, our bylaw says mufflers are required. We just did this. We just went through this. And so as long as the truck has the factory muffler, there shouldn't be any more noise pollution than when it's driving anywhere. But the railroad track, there's 3 coal trains a day. The dust off that is everywhere. It crosses the bridge. It's in the channel. You live that close to the tracks. If I was worried about diesel fumes, I'd be more worried about coal dust personally. So I don't have any issues with any of this. I understand the residents there. Maybe you didn't want to have your house beside a truck stop, but the one says that they're listed their place for sale, it may affect their sale price. It's an industrial park. It's been an industrial park for 10 years, and it's an accepted use. So, and it's going to create. Alex, can you tell us? By having somebody there for that, is it just going to be one person or a family because there's going to be a residence there, or is it going to be an office where there's 2 or 3 people working there? So
it could be 2 or 3 people to direct traffic from what I can think of. It's a small office trailer on foundations hooked up to services. It's somewhere where if a driver needs to use a washroom, they can go in and use a washroom. I don't think it's intended to be a sit-down lounge area for them to sit around and wait. My understanding is that they need to get in and out fast.
So then this is Councilor Wallace again. I guess one thing nobody's mentioned or discussed is one of the biggest issues we have in our community is the Husky truck stop. And the urine bottles that they throw out on the ground, the garbage, and all of that stuff. And across the road, there was sort of a minor truck transfer station there, and that was the case there. Can you assure us that that won't be the case? Because I'm the guy that myself and Councilor Bush will set up the spring cleanup community, and we got to pick those jugs out of the ditches. And you should have a hazmat suit on to do it. So is there a way, I mean, rather than worry about noise pollution and dust and exhaust, I would be more concerned that you have acceptable garbage bins there to take that stuff, or your guys would be responsible to pick it up so that it's not on the road driving in there. I hate to say it, but truckers have a habit of, I don't know how you do it, driving down the road, whizzing a bottle, then hucking out the window. That's
right. Right. So there won't be any contracted truckers or third-party truckers driving the vehicles or the trailers. It's all owned by the company that's going to be operating the facility, the site. They have a very strict policy about behavior and conduct. So I'm sure that nobody wants to be a bad corporate citizen. And I'm sure that there is a certain level of expectation to keep the site clean and free of garbage, as you mentioned. And coincidentally, I've been corresponding, trying to get an answer to, I apologize, Councillor, I couldn't quite get your name. It's the one I can see directly with the camera. With respect to the refrigerated trailers. So the response is none will be. All temperature controlled freight would come from Vancouver, and Sicamous Salmon Arm would be the last stop on the route. So they would be turned off when they ever need to be placed in the yard, but they will likely be returned empty to Surrey.
So you wouldn't have a problem in the permit if we said that there would be no refrigeration units running on site?
That's the answer I received. I don't know what that would mean. If someone shows up with a refrigerated truck, then they're going to get turned away. I don't know. I think, to be honest with you, as everybody said, I mean, it is an industrial park. We are working within the zone.
No, I support your application. Noise, it's an industrial park. Just trying to respect the one letter, and their concern was air and noise. And I think it's reasonable to assume it's an industrial park. There's going to be some noise, but if we can have some influence on the air quality during this application process, I think we have the due diligence to do that. And maybe I need more information before I vote, or I'll vote. You know, I'm just concerned about air pollution. And if you say that refrigeration units aren't going to be running on site, why can't we just put that in a permit there?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay, so we gotta make a decision here, Councilor Harris, and then I've got a comment as well. Go ahead.
Thank you, through the chair. Hi, Alex, Councilor Erie here. I was just wondering if you could speak to the specific mechanism that you would use to ensure that multiple trucks don't arrive at the same time, if you're to only have one on site at a time.
We had provided some additional information, I believe, to Sarah. I probably didn't make it in the report, but the intent is no two trucks would be leaving at the same time from a depot. Sorry,
And that's good enough for me, as the reason I'm asking is because between the exit and the highway and your yard, prospective yard, I don't think that there's a legal spot to park a truck. So it's good to have a plan in place. And I don't think that there'll be some circumstances where we would hesitate to hand out tickets and such to drivers if they were parking inappropriately, because we don't have a lot of parking on there. Thank you.
Thank you.
So when it comes to this recommendation here and the motion that we have on the floor, this is where I'm comfortable with this, is that subject to the confirmation that the district is satisfied regarding stormwater management and traffic impact as outlined in the draft permit. So that's part of the resolution. I'm not concerned so much myself when it comes to reefers running and so forth, based on my experience in the past. When it comes to truck stops. And we already do have a similar truck stop in down based on what's happening. So I'm in favor of this recommendation. So it is an industrial site. That's what we're trying to fill up, is an industrial site. And I know there might be some concerns with people that live alongside of the industrial site. And we have to recognize that for sure. But for the interim, we have this resolution on the floor, and I'm going to be calling the question for sure. Councilor.
Well, thank you for your opinion, but my opinion doesn't change. And I'd like to suggest a friendly amendment to the recommendation that subject to confirmation that the district is satisfied regarding stormwater management, traffic impacts, and air pollution.
That's the amendment by Mr. McCabe. Do we have a second?
I'll second that. They're reasonable.
I call the question on the amendment. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion, the amendment is defeated. So now I'm going to call the question on the actual resolution that's on the table. All those in favor? Opposed? Councilor McCabe is opposed.
Sorry, I just needed more information.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, that motion is carried. All right, moving on. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Sarah.
All right, Sicamous and District Recreation Center Facility Management RFP recommendation of staff be directed to prepare a submission for the request for proposal issued by the Columbia Shuswap Regional District for the management of the Sicamous and District Recreation Center. I need a mover. Councilor Mullins, Councilor Anderson. All right, do we need anybody in regards? I don't know if we need it. Do you want to comment on this?
It closes, I think, March 17th. And then the CSRD, I believe at the staff level, is asking the successful proponents who have submitted bids to come before them the last week of March to present, which we plan to do. Jamie and I, Kelly, Jennifer, Joe, we put a team together to make sure that our bid is not only thorough, but sort of promotes Finlayson Park as a campus of recreation. If we're successful, we feel that the rec center is just one of many assets that make up Finlayson Park. We're not just pitching to be the manager of a rec center. We are also the current manager of the skateboard park, the ball diamonds, the curling rink through the lease with the curling society, and also, of course, the newly installed hockey academy accommodation facility. So our efforts are to submit that in a all-encompassing RFP, and we are in discussions with the town of Golden on sharing similar software. So the software that we use is the software Golden would use, so we can assist the CSRD that owns both facilities in openness and transparency, et cetera. Tomorrow, we're meeting with the staff at the rec center to go over any questions they may have vis-a-vis labor, union contract, et cetera, and put any rumors to rest that there will be no change whatsoever in the current staffing complement or salary. We have collective agreement with QP. They have a collective agreement with QP or the same union, completely horrible. We're excited to be submitting this, James. Been doing a lot of research. Also trying to do consultants who could assist us in coming up with different ways to market and promote this facility. But again, in conclusion, we are going to be pitching Finlayson Park. Like when you come to Sicamous, you can use these facilities 12 months of the season. Okay, the rec center is not just for hockey or ice activities. There's lots of other benefits that can augment the park itself, whether it's minor ball in the summer, whether it's skateboard, whether it's dryland training, curling, other events, et cetera, et cetera.
Thank you. Comments or questions? Councilor Bushel?
Yeah, through the chair, looking forward to that tomorrow. Do you think we should also ask the CSRD for a tour and have a tour from them themselves?
Wouldn't hurt.
Yeah.
Wouldn't hurt.
And, we'll keep working away at it, and I think we got a good start on it already.
All right, exciting stuff. Rec Center, be happy to get that contract. All right, gonna call a question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. All right, equipment financing for loader. Recommendation that a liability under Section 175 of the community charter be authorized under the equipment financing program with the Municipal Finance Authority of BC for the purchase of a 2021 John Deere 624L wheel loader and the amount not to exceed $100,580 to be paid in monthly installments, including interest at the daily floating rate over a 5-year term. I need a mover on this. Moved by Councilor Evans, second by Councilor Harris. Kelly, you want to give us a briefing on this?
Okay, as discussed earlier today in the finance committee meeting, this was something to be brought forward to you this evening. We have a loader, it's a key piece of equipment. We traditionally replace it every 5 years to retain its value and also pay a similar amount. We're just replacing one loan payment with another loan payment. So that staff is recommending to proceed with this. I did get you, there were some questions about operating costs and maintenance for the loader. So the last 2 years, we spent under $6,000 or around $6,000, and that includes insurance. If you take out insurance of a couple thousand, really, there's very minimal maintenance that we currently spend on the loader. Yeah. I'll leave it up to you.
So would we pay this in a yearly installment, or you said a monthly?
Yeah, monthly payments.
Monthly.
Yeah.
Councilor Wallace, go ahead.
Through the chair, yeah, we kicked this around at the finance committee meeting, and unfortunately, it's 0.4% to cover the cost. Yes, it might be tighter to keep the one we have. But the maintenance will be the same maintenance you're going to do to whenever you buy a new one. You still have to change the one, you still have to do this. I don't think that's part of your warranty package. So, and if you need insurance, you still need insurance. So you need insurance to drive on the road. So, my opinion is that this time with COVID, we could hold off. I don't think the value of it will go down that far in the next year or two. I don't think we'll have any additional costs in the next year or two. Personal opinion.
Yes, through the chair, I just popped over and had a look at it. I thought maybe we get another season out of the tires, which I don't think we can because they're checked pretty bad. I did run into Everett over there, and we walked through the machine together, and I did some looking online at some other machines of the same age, and they're coming in at about 106,000 to 148,000. So getting 160 for more the trade-in is a pretty good deal compared to the other units that were for sale. But I did check with Everett on one of the things is he's trying to do is he's trying to train the other operators on this loader, and it's an old style loader, so that when you're plowing and it powers out, you have to almost throttle up to get the blade to come up when it's pushing snow, so they're having problems with it. And the new model actually has a compensator for that, and it doesn't power out at all. You just, when you go to lift the blade, it lifts, and that way they don't have any problems with curbs and stuff like that. So I kind of, Everett says that, it's not necessary. I mean, it's not that it's not necessary, but it's just the price of the exchange, and when we're getting in lieu of 160,000 back for the other trade-in one, it's a smoking deal. So I kind of support it, Jeff. And I know it's COVID time, but if we can upgrade that and get a new model and not be out any dough, which it's not that much, I think it's good for 5 years, 5 more years.
All right, any other comments or questions before I call the question? Councilor Day?
Through the chair, if Joe could touch on the purchase prices, also I think it's a great deal compared to a normal purchase price.
Yeah, no, thank you. Through the chair, when I kind of cold called, the GD phoned Kelly and myself and offered us this deal originally in the 2019 plate. And then we kind of cold called around a couple of other John Deere dealerships. They were ranging anywhere from 360 to 390 for a new John Deere. And then they were able to actually resource a new one, a newer one. But us, for 254, so it's about a saving of $100,000 on that as well. If that price was higher, if that price was at 300,000, I wouldn't be bringing this forward, to be quite honest. I would probably try and hold on to it, but the tires, I actually forgot about the auto throttle as well on it as well, but the fact that we're getting it for such a low price for a resale, for a trade-in, and for the new one as well, it makes it very, very appealing for us at this point. And I think that was the reason that both Kelly and I fully supported it. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I have a question for you, Joe. So I like to support this for sure, based on the fact that we need to stay on track of upgrading our equipment. But what would the trade-in be if we were to wait for 2 more years? Would it be 120,000? Would it still be 160? Or would it be 100,000?
I believe that we're waiting another 2 years on it. So if you take 60,000, we're going to have to buy new tires for it. That's 25. That drops us to 135 just now, worth of value to us. And then in 2 years' time, I don't think we get any more than 90 to 100. We might do more than that. Some of these units do hold their value very well. We do look after our equipment very well. We don't use it in a mine. We're using it in public works. We don't put a lot of hours on them. We maintain our machines exceptionally well. We do look after them to make sure that we can keep that residual value as high as possible. So, but I know it wouldn't be 160.
Okay, so yeah, I know if you have a new vehicle and in 2 years you want to trade it off, and then if you wait 4 years, it's almost worth nothing. So I can see why you're trying to do this. And Kelly, what kind of impact will this have on our budget really over a period of a year?
So as we are replacing one loan payment with another loan payment, the difference between the loan payment annually is around $2,000. So it's basically costing us an additional $2,000 a year.
Okay, so
for a new piece of equipment.
Okay. All right, any other comments or questions on this? I'm gonna call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Jeff is opposed. The rest is in favor. Okay. All right. Council at work. F is filter tender award. Recommendation that council award the supply of a tertiary disc filter for the wastewater treatment plant to Aqua Aerobic Systems Inc. for the bid price of $292,770 plus GST. I need a mover on this, Councilor Malmas, and a seconder on this, Councilor Aries. All right, who's going to give us Mr. Joe McCollum, would you give us a report on this as to why we need this?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So as part of our final stage of our wastewater treatment plant, we We've been through an exhaustive process of both treatment, chemical treatment and testing with our wastewater treatment plant. The last section we're going to be doing is the tertiary filter, and we have the budgets in front of us for that tertiary filter system. We went out to 3 separate vendors, Nexum, Acrobics and Viola, and ranging in price from 154,000 to 292,000. My recommendation through the committee after a lot of different questions and backwards and forwards are that we would move to work with Acrobics for a number of reasons. Acrobics are in the local area. They work locally both with Salmon Arm, with Lake Country, and with the surrounding areas in this demographic. They have in-house engineers, and they can provide our system up to Ministry of Environment permits. The other reason that we're looking for this is the other two don't necessarily deal with the waste that we deal with. They deal with the filtration system, and they will deal with the phosphorus and bring the phosphorus levels down. But when asked directly, would they deal with the phosphorus levels of greater than 1 and confirm through a quality warranty that they would absolutely stand behind their systems, they said they had to do significant testing, and we don't have time for significant testing at this point in time. This is a system that we want to come in, get ready, get operational, and have working by June. So unfortunately, because of that, because they wouldn't stand beside a quality warranty or behind a quality assurance, unfortunately, I can no longer consider both of these companies. We did give them both the opportunity to come back and see if finer micron filters would work. But again, they came back and wanted further testing before they would start behind that assurance for us. So because of that, we're going to move ahead with Acrobics. Now we have around $218,000 in our budget just now to complete our last section of this work. This is only to buy the filter system. So we are looking at what we're doing for that, and this still needs to go out to tender to do the completion of the construction. This is purely for the filter. And the reason that this is such a pivotal point is we want to make sure this filter is right and it serves as the function of the wastewater treatment plant. So very aware that this is the highest bid here, but it is also the one that actually addresses our system. The other two companies came back and said that they're dealing with phosphorus levels around 0.2. Acrobics are giving us a quality assurance at 7.5. It's incompatible, unfortunately. We did go back and try different options. So because of that, we would move to work with Acrobics. And we brought it back to the committee as well for questions.
Okay. Thanks, Joe. Councillor Wallace, go ahead.
Yeah, so a couple of points that Joe did mention. So at the committee, we were also informed that Aqua Aerobics actually came here in October, November, got all the data to look at what the microns needed to be. We've been working with Stantec for 3 years now, and they wouldn't guarantee it, and they came back with a 0.2, which if we had 0.2 phosphorus, we wouldn't need this at all. We'd be fine because we're less than 1. So these guys went through it and said there's times when you guys hit 6, so we recommend 7.5. Yeah, and that was a 5 micron. But these guys came back with 0.2 and a 10 micron. So they were not going to meet our needs. So that's why the committee voted in favor of the higher price one. And they also sound like they want to work with us. They have the capability to do the entire job. They're offered a warranty. The other guys were offered a warranty. They guarantee that when they put it in, it will meet our requirements. So it was just a vote of the Thanks, Joe. Good job.
Okay. All right, any other comments or questions on this? All right, I'm going to call a question. All those in favor? Thank you. Carried unanimously. All right, moving on, recreation site management plan priority user status. Mr. Bushel, if you want to comment on this?
Okay, well, through the chair, since I requested this to be put on the agenda, what it's all about is in the over the years, the snowmobile industry has kind of become front and center more so than logging, like local logging. And so what has happened over the years is we have contractors come in and start bidding on logging in the area. And most of them aren't from the area. I mean, we have some good loggers in the area, but most of the big loggers like LP, those logs are all going down south by the border. And so what's happening is the big companies send these out to smaller companies to bid on them. And they come in and they bid on them, but they don't really consult with the snowmobile industry. And what's happened is tourism has actually taken over for logging, especially in the small rural community. And we find ourselves, being bumped out, and like just Blue Lake has been closed all year. It really plays havoc. They've been logging on Queest all winter. We have to, drive up to 6K, and the trucks and trailers that come from Alberta, Saskatchewan, they can't get up to 6K with a truck, with a trailer. So it puts us on the back burner. So what we're kind of asking is, I went to the BC Snowmobile Federation about 6 months ago and asked them to look into it. And they were going to talk to the BC Forest Practice Board in regards to how tenders are bid on and how they're supposed to communicate with the clubs in the British Columbia Snowmobile Federation. And so what we're asking is, BC Rec Sites and Trails offers all the clubs management agreements to groom trails on logging roads. And these logging companies that could bid in October, they could bid in November, they could bid in April, May, June, July, August, all the way through the summer. But they tend to bid on all the tourism trails in those 4 months or 3 months that we needed. So we're just asking them to, kind of get their group together, the forestry industry and Rec Sites and Trails. They could log off these trails, these groomed trails, for 8 months of the year and leave these trails alone, so the community can benefit both from logging and from tourism. So we put together a resolution, and with the help of Jen and Amanda and Stu and Nicole, Natalie, and we presented it to BCSF, and they decided not to support it right now until they have an AGM. So their AGM is not till April, so we'll miss Silga. So I don't know if we should push this forward and still, maybe, I don't know if this is the year to push it forward with us not going to Silga, but it's on the agenda now, and I just, Jen, you wanna add to it or anything?
No, just exactly what you said there, that without their support, council could still choose to resolve this and send it to Silga if you'd like. Would it be stronger with the support? Absolutely, but it's a timing, so I guess it's just a matter of, is this urgent to council to send it this year or wait next year?
And I just add to it that BC Snowmobile Federation is in support of it, but they have to go to the membership. And this is this resolution would probably get unanimously passed by all small rural communities. Because just to give you an example, Fernie went out and bought a brand new $375,000 cat, and they don't have 4 hills like we have, and they groomed the trail 3 or 4 times, and on a Friday, a cat showed up and they plowed the whole groomed trail out, and they're going to be logging on there all winter for 2 years, and they can't use their snowcat, and they got to pay the bill too. So those are the things. There's no communication, and it would really help the rural communities quite a bit if we could push this forward.
Yeah, there's more behind this when it comes to the ripple effect, when it comes to the backcountry issues as well. So I'm in total support of this when it comes to going to UBCM for sure. I'm not so sure if it's too late to send it to Silver.
No,
We still send it to Silver. Councilor Mullins, you're on.
No, I think you should send it to Silga, and it should get moved to UBCM. I also think that the BCSF, when they have their general meeting, will give you a letter of support at that time. So you just add it on as an addendum to it. So I would full support.
Colleen?
I'm in full support of it as well. I think we should push forward.
All right, any other comments on this? So do you want us to pass this resolution right now so we can support this, so I need a mover. Counselor Bushel, second by Counselor Anderson. Any other comments on this? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thanks for that, Ford. So moving into dock regulations, Councilor Lomas, there's a recommendation that staff be directed to prepare a bylaw regulating docks, including provisions for location, permitted uses, structure, size, density, and a permitting process. I need a mover. Councilor Malmus. I need a seconder. Councilor Aries, okay. Councilor Malmus, would you give us a bit of an update as to what the reasoning is for this?
Well, most communities have a dock bylaw, which basically stipulates what type of construction you can have and what they're allowed for. Quota, Soyuz, Columbia shoe swaps, bylaw 900 for them. And I think that we don't have, we have a dock bylaw, but it's only regulating the use of our wharves, our public wharves. Contrary to the guy who was ranting and raving, our bylaw does not cover the use of boat launches. I don't think we could stop anybody from using boat launch. So, but your overnight parking on docks and stuff like that. So, just to be in alignment with all the other communities, and because we are a waterfront dock community and we allow them, I don't think that in any time that any dock application by a resident that's been applied for in the district of St. Louis has been turned down. So I just think we should have a set of guidelines, and when people want to apply for a dock, they can do it, and then we can approve it. So it's one step towards becoming the approval agent or a head lease for our community. So the start of it would be our own dock.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure I support this, so I do support it, but I just want to make sure that the intent is not like sort of bylaw 900 with CSRD kind of thing.
We'd be allowed docks,
is to allow, but manage it properly. You think?
Yeah, I agree, Jeff, this is a great idea, because we're such a, marine community. And like, I know we have a public dock over at the Legacy, and it's a public dock, but if you go there, and they have no trespassing signs. And, it makes you feel like you're not allowed to go down the dock, and it's actually a public dock. So we, that would have, we could start managing it a little better.
Councilor Anderson.
Yeah, and I agree with you as well, Jeff. There's a couple times like that to Mervyn Road, which is a public boat launch with no trespassing signs, no parking signs. Access and parking is, you put your boat in the water and parking along Mervyn Road.
Yeah.
But there's no parking, and it's frowned on to head down to that public launch. So somebody needs to have a conversation there as well.
Yeah.
I support this as well, very much so. So, and the resolution reads that staff be directed to prepare a bylaw. So that's where we're going with this at this stage. And I just wanted to know from staff, Mr. Parliament, what would be the timeline in order to get, or maybe Jen, how long would it take for us to maybe look into this, and would this come back to our next council meeting?
Thank you, through the chair, our bylaw of the stature, including the research and preparation and moving involved. I would estimate it's probably taking about 25 hours. Can I get that in before the next meeting? No. I'll be honest.
No pressure, Jen.
I'm hearing from council that it's more of a priority in other things that we're working on. I could aim for the last meeting of March for first reading, and then council can give direction on it.
Okay, all right. Well, that's Councilor Malmus.
Through the chair, I don't know, could I get council's endorsement to help Jen? I do have quite a bit of experience with dogs. Like I can read through and highlight some things that should or shouldn't be.
I would appreciate that.
I was just going to say, I think that's up to Jen.
Absolutely, like before it comes to council, I'd appreciate that.
But-
Just to expedite the process.
Through the chair, I mean, I've been told by council that I should make an appointment, so. It's just.
We're in favor of that, so. All right, I'm gonna call the question on the resolution. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you, Secretary. Thank you, Jen. All right, correspondence for information. I don't know what this correspondence is.
Maybe there's,
All the correspondence. Anybody want to comment on ministry? Okay, go ahead.
oh, sorry, not on the first one, your worship, but out of all of them, I think that watercraft one needs a response.
Kelly?
Yeah, Kelly, I think she's looking for a response from council.
All right. Which one am I on? The watercraft one?
Yeah, from Kelly, Helgeson, or Kelly.
Elston.
Helston.
Okay.
I think the rest is just for information.
Do we have a copy of that? So.
Yeah.
School down, it's right here.
Oh, they're here. Okay, sorry. Okay, just have to keep going. Oh, wait, let me look at that. Sorry, I'm a little bit behind. Do you want to comment on this, Councilor McGee?
No, I was just sort of pointing out that I think she's looking for some sort of action. Or response. Maybe Councilor Anderson might.
Okay, comments or questions on this?
What is our jurisdiction on the river? Because I totally get her point, the erosion of the banks. When you're out of Mirror Lake in high water and you've got boaters going across, I mean, it creates a mess. And the river is not a big body of water. I mean, so Jeff, you must have people going past your house.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So it's a problem, but whose jurisdiction is that? How can we police it? How can we put a speed limit on it? How can we assist these folks that live right there and take care of the environmentally responsible?
It's interesting because this came up a couple of years ago when we had high water and we had folks, there was concerns along the river. Gord, can you answer that?
No, I can't, but I do, I do know that there's somebody that lives on that river that's got a jet boat. And he creates lots of havoc on that
It
river.
was Brian Lavery that was,
Yeah.
concerned about the water that was.
So Jeff might know a little more.
So there is a speed limit sign there. It's been there for a very long time. It's always flopped over when this guy with the fast jet boat goes by. It needs to be, re-anchored because it only has two lines on it, and the two lines are the wrong way. So the lines need to be adjusted. I'm not sure if we need a section 11 to do that. I'd be happy on the district's behalf to call Keith Ware and find out, because a sign in the middle of the river is like having a buoy in front of your house. You have to have a permit for it. So I'm assuming that sign has permit because it's not the water. So it's there. When they started removing buoys a couple of years ago, they didn't take that out. So I'm assuming it's legal to do that. As far as enforcement, I think it may be either DFO or the RCMP.
I think it's the RCMP.
So
Go ahead, Paul.
a question for probably Jeff. So would that be a no wake zone, like going down the river?
Yes.
Absolutely no wake.
Yeah.
So maybe we could drop some of those no wake buoys in the middle in a couple spots, no?
Councillor McCabe and Councillor Bushel.
I know Enderby has been dealing with this on Shoe Shopper, so maybe best practices, we can just check with Greg McEwen and see how they addressed it.
Yeah, I know they've been dealing with this.
Good idea.
Gordon?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I just nominate Jeff to look into that.
There's nothing else to do.
No, I had a great, we have a good report and we can find some information from those guys. And then respond.
It is a gray area, but we have to do something about it. It's not just this particular situation, it's more than that. Strategy.
Will we be able to drop Kelly a note, or is she on the call? Can she hear us right now?
Yeah, Kelly's been on the whole time.
Okay, well, as long as she knows that we're on it.
Looking into it.
We're looking into it.
Go ahead, Evan.
So just a reminder to council that the two entrenched jurisdictions have authority over any body of water in Canada, whether it's a river, lakes, ocean, lake, or federal government, Transport Canada, navigable waters, i.e. channel, you know, and the province, and through riparian regulations, etc. Being that we're creatures of the province, back to the question of authority when it comes to water, you know, we would liaise and consult with the province. But Transport Canada and under navigable waters also has to say, no different than the houseboats going down the channel, entering the lakes, etc.
So maybe a letter to Transport Canada, requesting maybe some action on this, is that what you'd be advising? Because we should maybe put this in the proper channels, right?
In theory, yes, they're very difficult to get a hold of. In my experience, I mean, they're a large bureaucracy. You have to really zero in on the right person in the right department specific to the Eagle River. Is it possible? Sure, but my past experiences, you know, Transport Canada is a massive bureaucracy, and it's finding that right person. I've had lots of experience with Transport Canada when it comes to derelict vessels left in water. You know, that's a domain under Transport Canada. That infringes navigable waters and your ability to move your bulk, whether it's for commercial or recreational purposes. And trying to just remove derelict vessels in a body of water is tough. You also have DFO that weighs in, which of course is the federal government. So it's just finding the right person.
Maybe Councillor Wallace might have some contacts that he might be able to remove some information from, maybe just.
They're already in my votes.
Okay, so we got Councillor Wallace on it. All right, thank you. Anything else in the correspondence that you'd like to discuss? Councillor Bushel, go ahead.
Just one quick one. We had a letter, and I know it's confidential, I won't mention her name, but they gave us one last meeting, and just wondered if we ever replied. It was to mayor and council, it was supposed to be confidential. So just, I don't know, some of those might slip through the crack. You remember that one?
What was the subject?
Trace? How many words?
No, it was confidential. It was last meeting or the meeting before.
I'm sorry that my brain is not.
Yeah, okay.
Not registering, but I will, we can do it and ensure that we either responded to it or being processed, so.
I'll look into it, yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just as long as we keep.
I don't like to flex there, you, but.
When it's a local, it's something you should, you know, like a taxpayer.
And really, after 11 hours today, you just don't have the answer.
Not, and yeah, my apologies.
Sorry, Jeff.
So I just, before I motion to adjourn, I would like everybody just to stay here for 5 more minutes after we adjourn this meeting. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Momus, second by Councillor Harris. Amanda, let us know when we're off air.
Well, is there audience stuff or?
Well, we're into the question period, which you won't,
You don't have a question period.
in the way that we do things. We're good.
We're good.